he has been able to make it. He was supposed to come in the morning, but somehow he couldn't make it in the morning. So, but he said, I'll come at this time. And in the morning, I'll tell you what has happened. The Honorable Education Minister was the chief guest. And the Chief Director of Department of Education was here, Sonam, I forget his second name. He was there. And of course, we had the President of COBSE, Ms. Asano, and we have the Secretary of COBSE also, Mr. Sharma, MC Sharma. And I welcomed the guests, and I briefed them about the conference, what our concept is, concept note of the conference, and the approach paper. I told them how we will go about in the conference, how many sessions will be there, and you have this in your folder. I will not repeat the full thing, but we have sessions on curriculum and pedagogy, which is going to happen now. And then we have presentations by boards. In the morning, we had the keynote address on assessment, transformation of assessment and equivalence of boards. Then we have some other sessions. One session on Bharatiya Gyan based education, which is a major recommendation of NEP 2020. We have a session on that. And so we have sessions like that. And then we'll have group work. One group will deliberate upon the way ahead, how the boards will go ahead with implementing the policy. And the second group will discuss about, one major recommendation of the conference is that the board should hold twice a year exams twice a year. So they will deliberate upon that. And I had added to that when we are saying twice a year, it can be semesterization also. So we have to move towards semesters. That is what the policy says. And we have to move towards semesterization. So that will be a part of it also. Because 2 exams, the boards are already doing. One compartment exam is already there in every board. Some boards do it twice. The 2 compartments also they give, some boards. So I think what the policy, when it says 2 exams in a year, I think they have semester system in mind. I'm not sure. But in NCERT also this discussion has taken place. I was there in a meeting. They had prepared a report and I was vetting that report. So that is what we have done since morning. And now you have come to guide us. Please come and address.
Good afternoon, friends. President of COBSE, Chairman of BOSSE, and all distinguished people who are here in the beautiful city of Gangtok in this beautiful weather. I am very delighted to be here. In fact, I missed the morning sessions and I could not come in the morning, but I am glad that I could make it finally today. I extend a very warm welcome to all the people who have come here from different boards from all over the country. And I recall the journey of BOSSE, which happened when I was handling the education department some time back. When I took over as, I will share some of my experiences of handling education department as secretary in the state of Sikkim. And of course, I was involved in the formulation of NEP. I was a member of several committees in MHRD, the then MHRD. And when I came to the education department, I was told that it is a very challenging department for being the head of the department, and improving education is not very easy. Schools, government schools, suffering from so many problems, competition with private schools, and there are so many issues. Unavailability of teachers, and all kinds of things. Teachers being busy in so many things other than teaching. So many administrative responsibilities. So, in the state of Sikkim, for example, I found that one of the biggest issues which we were facing, apart from the common issues of teachers shortage or teachers mostly trying to be in urban areas, not willing to go to rural areas, and that way depriving the rural schools of their presence and teaching and so on and so forth. We also had an issue of acute shortage of science and maths teachers in the state of Sikkim, and I think the entire Northeast suffers from this. Maybe in the entire country, I don't know, but the present situation, but in Sikkim we were suffering very badly, and that led to a fear of maths and science among the children. And when we try to find out what is happening with the maths people who are coming to teach maths, and why they are not staying in the schools, why they are leaving the schools or whatever, I found that all those people who came to teach as GT maths or PGT maths or GT science, invariably they all got selected into some government job other than teaching. For example, somebody became inspector of police, somebody became civil servant, somebody became something. They were able to complete the exams and they left the system. So basically the thing is that the profession of teaching, unfortunately, even today, I feel it's very strong. My parents were teachers, both of them. But somehow the profession of teaching is not very much looked up to by the young aspirants as a career. And I also remember that, the teachers, we had a lot of conferences of teachers to motivate them. And they were being told one thing repeatedly, that you are building up the state, building up the future of the country. Don't take your teaching profession as a government job, that you come at 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, go at 3 o'clock or whatever. Try to be a guru. Try to be a mentor to the children. And then in the hill areas, in Northeast, many states suffer from the problem of, single parents or child coming to school without breakfast, and fainting in the prayer meeting and all that or whatever. And then we assigned about 10 students, group of 10 students, to one teacher as a teacher, and we redesignated him as teacher guardian. So that one teacher became teacher guardian for about 10 students. Now whether they are dressed up properly or not, their dresses are clean or not, they have taken breakfast or not, all these things were being looked after by those teacher guardians. And that led to a dramatic improvement in attendance. Students were staying back at home on the smallest pretexts, because schools did not have, for example, toilets or girls' toilet or whatever. So then, of course, government also started, and Sikkim schools have been fortunate. We have had a good infrastructure. But as I said, it was very difficult to motivate somebody bright to come for a teaching profession. And I am also part of it. Myself personally, I have been a very bright student in my childhood, and I studied in IITs and all that. But after doing IIT and all, we all came for civil service because of whatever reason. I cannot justify or not justify it today, but this is the fact of the life, that we are drawn towards administrative services because of their attraction. And people who are good in academics, they don't go to academics. They get some. So the same thing is happening all over the country. So in Sikkim, one more problem was that students were actually dropping out after class 8, the dropout ratio was very high at secondary level. Let's say 20%, 22% or whatever. So it's generally high at the national level also, but here it was really very high, and we were worried why they were leaving. So of course, all of you are aware of it. No detention policy and all those kinds of stuff were there, and they were able to reach class 8, and then suddenly class 9 was like a big obstacle to clear. And class 9 enrollments were surging all over the state in all secondary schools, senior secondary schools. The classrooms were not able to accommodate children because, children were failing, repeating class 9, and more coming to class 9, and all these problems we were grappling with. And then students were ultimately dropping after class 9 or whatever. Then the second thing, in hill areas, I found that, they were very keen to take up unemployment at a very young age. So unlike in the plain areas, for example, I am from UP. I live in Delhi now, mostly. So, there the students are struggling to get a better job, preparing for competitive exams or whatever, going for higher education, post-graduation. Here, after class 8, 9, if they were not able to clear, that was one reason. Second reason was they want to take up a job. And any job would do, for example, if they can become a driver, if they can become a small, whatever. So I found that the students were suffering from lack of ambition. They did not have an ambition of going very high in career, doing very well and going for a good job. So whether, of course, if you are a good driver, you command a lot of market value. It's not that, for example, I can tell you, I live in Delhi. It's very difficult to get a good driver in Delhi or any place for that matter. The word good driver is a little subjective, but there are a few common things. For example, coming on time, not divulging where you are going, what you are talking in the vehicle, on phone, and doing your small little works of bank, this, that, whatever, or some other sundry kind of things. So I said that, even if they want to become such things, take up such careers because they want to be independent early in life, okay, it's fine, but then at least class 10, class 12, if they can speak proper English, if they can be a little more aware of Sikkim's history and heritage and culture, because they will be the people who are coming in the contact with tourists as a first point of contact. So then this discussion about, because we don't have a school board, even now, a government school board. We are all, government schools are CBSE schools, some private schools are ICSE schools, couple of them also have IB curriculum. So we thought about having a public-private partnership, a board, which can focus more on the skill part of it, and giving somebody dignity of having cleared class 10 and class 12 exam, while still working, and a kind of open schooling. So the idea was discussed, debated, and everybody accepted it. The Honorable Minister was very forthcoming. He has been a pillar of support. And there were obstacles in the sense that people were initially not able to accept this concept, that how can there be a board like this, or can we do it or not, and this and that. Finally, everybody agreed to it, and we passed the legislation in the State Assembly, and it came into being. And I'm very happy today they are hosting the 52nd annual conference of COBSE. And I think it has been a couple of years that BOSSE was established, and they have been struggling with few issues, I suppose, in the beginning, which are now getting sorted out, and I'm sure they will do very well. Now, this kind of problem of dropping out and all can be really addressed using, having this kind of board, and I'm sure BOSSE will play its part very effectively. NEP, all of you know the subject is NEP, so I'll speak a couple of minutes on NEP. Since I was part of NEP, and I remember very distinctly, Sikkim was one of the first states, fortunately. We signed an agreement with the UNESCO's MGIEP, Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Development. And we revised our primary textbooks, because I found that the primary textbooks which we were using were actually being read in a very mechanical way by the students. They were not finding it very interesting. So what we thought was that if we can revise our primary textbooks, and all of you know perhaps that many rural areas, especially hill areas like Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal, Himachal, there is a flocking of people in the urban areas. Rural areas are not having too many children. In Sikkim, the fertility rate has gone down to 1.1. So very few children are being born. So government schools at the primary level have got very few children. And there is a competition with private schools because at the primary level there is a plethora of private schools. They are less at the higher levels because it is difficult to run a school at a higher level. It requires a lot of requirements to be fulfilled. Primary mein aasan hai, easy hai. So there is a large number of primary schools. So competition with primary schools, children dropping out, income of people going up in the state with the prosperity and all kinds of things coming. So anybody having some disposable income would think that my child will not go to a government school. He will go to a private school. And they are so enamored of, I'm not saying private schools are bad or good, it's a subjective thing. Many of them are outstanding, many of them are not very good also. But then for the parents who have some little disposable income, they wanted to send them to private schools. That मेरा बच्चा तो private school में ही पढ़ेगा. Good morning, good evening बोलेगा, बस they are very happy with good morning and good evening. Teaching और क्या हो रही है इससे कोई मतलब नहीं है. तो anyway, so the point is that this kind of thing was happening, so we thought of revising our textbooks. And we went for stories from Sikkim, names from Sikkim, depiction from Sikkim, real life stories. For example, I remember very clearly, we found there was a widow in a place called Pakyong where the airport is. She was selling vegetables. So we had a story on the vegetable seller. And what we did was, that lady became a widow, her husband passed away. She had a little piece of land, so she was doing organic farming. Sikkim is an organic state, the only organic state in the country. And she was selling the vegetables in the market, making grooming her children. So, we used local names, for example, people, the names, not like, names borrowed from outside, like James, Victor, whatever. We used local names, and the same story was depicted, and all kinds of lessons were woven into that. For example, small mathematics, when you sell it, how much money will come, this, whatever, cost of production, this, that. Organic farming, why organic farming? Because it protects the soil, it is not taxing on the environment and all. And then, her enterprise, her guts in raising her family alone, and things like that. And then, of course, when you enter the market from home, then you have to encounter the market forces and all kinds of good and bad things in the market you see. So all those things. So we revised all class 1 to class 5 textbooks. They are available on the SCRT website, soft copies. And they were so much appreciated by NCRT and also by the Union Ministry of Education. It was actually a step in the direction of NEP. NEP basically was that teach them in their mother tongue, teach them local things, give them the lessons which they can absorb, and they can learn so many things in an activity-based learning or in a fun-based learning without reading the books as a mechanical activity and just trying to clear the exam. So it did very well, and the books were printed and then hailed by everyone as a very good this thing. It was, I think, about 4 or 5 years back, and NEP came in 2020, I think on 29th of July. So I'm very happy that we had done this preparatory work, and of course we thought about BOSSE, and BOSSE today is now hosting this conference. So I'm sure all of you are very distinguished, learned people from all boards all over the country. You have your own experience, and teaching a child in a school is one of the most difficult tasks which I have seen. I have sat in the classes, I have gone to the schools, I have gone to the rural areas, I have seen teachers teaching, and I found it is such a difficult task to engage everybody's attention in the class. And if somebody can do it, so we tried in our own little way, and we learned from others. And I'm sure all of you are playing a very, very big role in shaping up this country's future. The students who are coming up, when I read the stories of, for example, not only read the stories, when I see students, when I see young people today, some of them talking in a very, unacceptable kind of a way, or people, losing their temper at a slightest provocation. Tolerance is just not there. Not respecting colleagues, elders, teachers, and not respecting the environment, not respecting things surrounding them. I feel very sad about it, because this is a very big part of education, that when a child comes into the real life as a professional, as a businessman, as a civil servant, as whatever, as a teacher, in whatever capacity, he or she, if he or she is not a good human being, then I think the entire meaning of education is lost. I mean, it is not only a means to earn a degree and get a good job. For example, when I see some IS officers, young IS, I keep meeting them, keep addressing them. When I talk to them and when I find some of them, I cannot say what they say, which makes me disappointed or frustrated. But I feel that, there is something missing. They have become IS, they have qualified the exam, everything is fine, but then something very crucial is missing. If you are sitting in the office, if you don't treat your office people with respect, if you don't give them proper respect, your drivers, your peons, your person who brings tea to you, or whatever, then you go and meet people in the field, you meet poor people, you meet people who have suffered because of the system, because of whatever reason. If you don't take care of them, if you can't give them consolation as an officer, then I think a very big part of education is missing. Then there are incidents of violence in the schools, and a lot of things are happening. So I think we need to look at all of it in a very holistic way. School education prepares child for higher education, and it is the real foundation, especially at the primary level, so and junior high school level. So with these words, I will end my address, and I once again thank BOSSE and COBSE for having me here, and it was a real pleasure addressing all of you and sharing some of my thoughts, because I have been as an administrator in the sector. I was born in a family of teachers, so I have seen the teaching profession very closely. My mother used to give me the UP board copies for checking the total. She used to be, examiner. So in our summer vacation, we used to do all that work for her and do the retotaling. And so thank you once again, and I wish all the very best to this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your experiences will be very valuable for us. And the way you have talked about Sikkim and its education system and what are the lacunae over there, we have to think about it. Thank you for your guidance.
Thank you so much, sir. Taking the program forward, the technical session 1 will be chaired by Ms. Anita Devraj, former school principal, DAV, and member, Academic Advisory Council and Board of Management, BOSSE. We have Dr. Kuldeep Agarwal, Chairman, Board of Open Schooling and Skill Education, Sikkim, as the speaker on the topic Philosophy of NEP 2020, and Ms. Nidhi Kapoor, Academic Officer, BOSSE, Sikkim, as the speaker on the topic Recommendations of NCF 2023, Implications for School Education Boards.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, can I speak in Hindi also? मेरा भाषा है ना, and English also I can speak. थोड़ा बहुत मैं बोल लेती हूँ English में भी. I'll mix it up. Okay. So namaskar everyone over here, and you're all back after having a good lunch. I'm very sure about it. But some of you are missing from here. That means they had far too good a lunch. They found it more tastier than us. So in any case, but all those who are here, I'm thankful to you that you are over here to listen to Dr. Kuldeep Agarwal and Nidhi over here. They are very good speakers. And I was just thinking how to start off, actually. You know, when I heard Mr. Upadhyay speaking over here, I was just actually wondering, NEP to bahut acha hai, it's very good. But I was just wondering, how will you carry NEP across to the students? And he spoke the language which I was thinking also. And I appreciate the fact that he was able to speak. He was able to convey so much more information about education in the schools also. But I'm very happy that he deserved a standing ovation when he said that he was the person who introduced BOSSE to Sikkim. And let me tell you one thing. First and foremost, I must congratulate Hemantji and Kuldeepji and his team of young girls over here that they started this board in 2021? 20. Okay, yes, 20. And aaj 23 hai. And within this small period of time, they were able to do a lot of work. In fact, being a member of the board over here, let me tell you also one thing. Day and night, these people have worked. The entire team of BOSSE have worked very hard. And they received immense cooperation from Hemantji also, which is very good. Agar upar baitha hua shakhs aapki madad karta rahe, so you can do anything. That I'm very sure of it. And they were able to do it. Aur sabse achhi baat ye hai कि they were able to hold a conference of such a vast level over here, which other boards, I don't know about the other boards, but I have been a member of the Haryana board also, and for a very long period of time, and I was member of NCRT also, and I was just wondering how many people have really done a conference in such a short span of time. So I think we must give a big round of clap to these people. They deserve it. They deserve it. And I'm very proud to be a member of their advisory council also and a board of management also. So talking about education, you know, like NEP ko andar kaise hum karenge, the philosophy, Dr. Agarwal will speak to you about it and Nidhi will also add something more to it also. But I was just wondering, you know, how will you carry it across? Because hamara teachers, as he very rightly pointed out, Upadhyay Sahab, that teachers don't remain. They do their B.Ed and they become, because very funny. I mean, if you really have thought about it, कि जितने भी, I am very happy to see so many young men. I do not know आप लोगों का background क्या है. I really don't know. But one thing is definitely there. The boys don't like to continue with being a teacher because marriage market में teacher का कोई value नहीं है. You know, a clerk has a better value. Teacher master जी है, मेरा पति master जी है, is too much. So they don't want to be there and they want to be clerks. And secondly, teachers, जो lady teachers आती हैं, उनके पास बहुत सारे काम होते हैं, सुबह से लेकर शाम तक. स्कूल, पहले तो स्कूल के अंदर भी उनका दिमाग घर में ही रहता है, थिंकिंग अबाउट कि बच्चे क्या कर रहे हैं, पता नहीं मेड आई है, अगर दे आर बेटर ऑफ, मेड आई है नहीं आई है, क्या काम करना पड़ेगा. तो दे आर कॉन्स्टेंटली थिंकिंग अबाउट इट. डू यू रियली थिंक दे विल हैव टाइम टू थिंक अबाउट such important things as what has been written over here? Like Dr. Agarwal has presented a paper out here. He has given it to me and he is going to speak on something different. He says philosophical approach to the education part of it. And he says following are the important philosophical approaches which should be taken into account. Aligned with the aspirational goals of 21st century education, instilling knowledge and learning how to learn. मुझे याद है, and it's very important, I tell you, frankly speaking, I went to a public school. Like Upadhyay Sahib pointed out, that acha school. So we came from UP. I didn't come from UP, I was born here only. But my parents came from UP and they did not want us to go to a government school or to a Hindi medium school. They sent us to a school which was run by English people. It was not an English medium school, it was run by the English people over there. And that was very famously known as Presentation Convent in Delhi. and very good school, and we learned English, and we really learned English very well. I did history in class 6th, 7th and 8th, that is ancient, medieval and modern. आप भी जानते ऐसे पढ़ते होंगे ना आप भी. Then I went to school, when 9th, 10th, 11th, क्योंकि हमारे ज़माने में +2 नहीं था, हमारे ज़माने में सीनियर कैम्ब्रिज ही था और 11th तक चलता था. 9th, 10th, 11th, again ancient, medieval, modern. Then I went on to choose history as my graduation subject. That was again ancient, medieval and modern. Then I did MA, ancient, medieval and modern. So history became so clogged in my mind that I thought that really. But then after, all this, when I came to college, because it was an English school, so they always said that the Britishers have done so much good for us people over here. हम poor Indians के साथ हम क्या थे, हमें कुछ भी तो नहीं आता था. हम लोग तो सपेरे थे और हाथियों पे घूमते थे बैठ के. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone sitting on the hathi and घूमोing, I don't know how they did it. In any case, so it was like this. And when I came to college, and one of my teachers, who happened to be my sister-in-law of our Delhi Chief Minister, शीला दीक्षित की sister-in-law थी वो. I've forgotten her name. But I will remember. दीक्षित नाम था उनका भी. तो प्रभा दीक्षित, sorry. And she asked, तुमने BA, तुमने स्कूल के अंदर ब्रिटिश हिस्ट्री के बारे में क्या पढ़ा? And we all raised our hand because we all came from one of those schools only. And very clear, we said, oh, they have done so good for us, We were, we didn't know anything about education. उन्होंने हमको पढ़ाया, उन्होंने हमको रेलवेज भी दे दी, उन्होंने टेलीग्राफ भी दे दिया, उन्होंने दुनिया भर की चीज़ें हमको दे दी और हमको इंसान बना दिया. And she was so furious with us, so furious. She says, what rubbish? क्या पढ़ के आते हो? Next time you dare say these words. Then she taught us what actually history was. But then, unfortunately, हमारी जितनी भी history है, they have been written by a set of people who were educated during those times. They learnt history from those people. और आज भी जो किताबें लिखते हैं वो भी यही सब कुछ लिखते हैं. अब हमारे बॉसे के अंदर किताबें लिखी जा रही हैं, and by with what, पता नहीं कौन सा, I think कितना इन लोगों में एनर्जी है कि they do it, and they make us also work. Some of the members sitting out here, they make us also work very hard. So we sat down to write, and we asked people to write lessons for the board, and they came out again with that same idea. वही पुराना बातें सारी लिख के दे दी हमने कि अंग्रेज़ कितने अच्छे थे, हम कितने बेकार थे. We also learned कि हमारा ancient Indian history के अंदर तो कुछ था ही नहीं. Whereas ancient India के बारे में अगर आप पढ़ें तो you'll be surprised. In fact, one of the members over here spoke about Sanskrit, and I tell you one thing, in my school we did everything in English. हम हिंदी में बोल ही नहीं पाते थे. Result क्या हुआ? That one day I very proudly told somebody, I can't speak in Hindi at all, it's not. And कुछ बात नहीं हुआ, अंदर आ गए, घर आ गए. जब घर आके तो वो जो डांट पड़ी मेरा मम्मी से और दादी से कि how stupid can you get? It's your mother tongue. And he was saying, I don't know Hindi. What is all this bakwas? You dare not say this word ever in future. And we learnt a lesson. Okay, so we started speaking Hindi. And Hindi is one of the, and I tell you one thing, I really started loving Hindi. Because earlier I used to read English novels, but then I started reading Hindi. And started with Vayam Rakshame, which was written by Acharya Chatursen. Has anyone read it? Has anyone read it? Oh, please do. Please do. Acharya Chatursen ki padhiye aap. Vayam Rakshame. It's a beautiful novel which he has written, and it's all about Ravan. He's right from his birth. जब से वो पैदा हुआ और जब तक वो मरा नहीं, तब तक उन्होंने लिखा. And I tell you, it's fantastic. You must read it. And I fell in love with Hindi. और आज अब मैं इंग्लिश की नॉवेल्स नहीं पढ़ पाती हूँ. आई कॉन्ट रीड इट बिकॉज मुझे लगता है इसमें कुछ है ही नहीं, क्या पढ़ूँ मैं इसको. एंड देन आई स्टार्टेड रीडिंग हिंदी नॉवेल्स. आई रेड अबाउट संस्कृत, एंड मेरे को लगा संस्कृत में हम जब पढ़ते थे तो हमें बोला जाता था संस्कृत सिर्फ इतना पढ़ लो कि तुम्हारे को पास हो जाओ. और हमारे पास का मायने ये होता था कि 0 से ऊपर हो जाओ, ये 2-3 नंबर मिल जाए तो निकल जाओगे तुम लोग. तो हम यही करते थे. और अगर हमें बस एक ही लता लकार आती थी विच वी रेड, और अगर नहीं बोल पाते थे खूब पिटाई होती थी यहाँ पे सो वे हियर. पब्लिक स्कूल्स डोंट स्लैप यू, दे हिट यू हियर विद अ फुट्टा. वो भी धीमा धीमा टप टप, 2 ओनली. सो वी गॉट 2 टप टप्स एंड वी वर हैप्पी विद दैट टप टप बिकॉज इट डिडंट hurt us. But then when later on, when I was about 60 years old, and I realized, oh my God, because that's the first time I got introduced to Upanishad. Not 60 years old, 50 years old. Upanishad. And I read what was it, this नचिकेता की किताब क्या थी मानवेंद्र? नचिकेता वाली उपनिषद, Kathopanishad, that's the book. Kathopanishad. And it was a beautiful story written about a small boy, Nachiketa, and about his parents. And when he goes to meet Yama in up, to Yama के पास जाते हैं because his father had given him to Yama. So, and I was telling, and Yama के पास जाते हैं, Yama होते नहीं हैं, और चित्रगुप्त वहाँ पे होते हैं, तो चित्रगुप्त कहते हैं कि भाई तुम अंदर नहीं आओगे, तुम वहाँ बाहर बैठो, जब तक यम नहीं आ जाएंगे तब तक आप अंदर नहीं आएंगे. And when Yam came back after 3 days, Chitragupta said that there is somebody to meet you. He says, where? He says, वो बाहर. He says, बाहर क्या कर रहे हैं, तुमने अंदर क्यों नहीं बिठाया इनको? He says, नहीं, no, I can't, मेरे को अलाउड नहीं है. यहाँ पे वही लोग आएंगे जो लोग प्रस्थान कर गए हैं, यहाँ पे तो वो नहीं आएगा, वो बाहर ही बैठेगा, उसका नाम यहाँ पे नहीं मेरे पास है लिस्ट में. तो he said, you also go and meet him outside. तो Yama went outside and then talked, and वो दुनिया भर की उसमें beautiful story. And I decided to tell this to my nieces, and they were so impressed by this. And what, बुआ और बोलो ना, और क्या हुआ फिर, क्या हुआ? I said, अब तुम अपने आप ढूंढ लो. हम कैसे ढूंढ ले? Because there were 3 questions he asked. He says one question was कि मरने के बाद क्या होता है? What happened after life, after death? And he couldn't. And they asked me. He says, बुआ बताओ ना, death कुछ क्या बोला फिर? क्या बोला यम ने? So I said, no, I can't tell you. You will have to read it yourself. He says, हम कैसे पता करेंगे? I said, go and read. Go and read that book. So they sat down and they found this thing so good. They said, oh my God, you have introduced us to something beautiful. But that is how it has, हमारा जो ये जो एजुकेशन है, सिस्टम जो NEP है, यही तो वो कह रहा है कि अपने जो आपने किया है उसके बारे में तो बताओ लोगों को. उनको पता ही नहीं है, कोई बताने वाला है. हमको किसी ने बताया होता तो हम बहुत पहले से पढ़ना शुरू कर देते. हमने तो ट्रायल एंड एरर के अंदर ही सीख लिया. लेकिन हर किसी के पास तो ये मौका नहीं होता है ना. एज Upadhyay ji very rightly pointed out. He pointed out, I tell you, he pointed out the basic defects which are there in education system. क्या होता है, जो अच्छे लोग होते हैं वो तो चले जाते हैं कहीं और जो जिनको कहीं और नहीं जा पाते हैं या कहीं और जाना नहीं चाहते हैं, वो लोग वहाँ पढ़ा रहे हैं. वो क्या पढ़ाएंगे? They don't know. किसी के पास लाइब्रेरीज भी अवेलेबल नहीं है, किसी के पास इतना पैसा भी नहीं है कि वो किताबें खरीद के अपने बच्चों को दे दे. तो क्या करेगा वो? तो NEP जो है बहुत चीज़ें बातें बहुत कर रहा है. एंड आई सिंसियरली होप हम लोग उस सब को अचीव कर सकें जो वो हम लोगों से चाहते हैं. दिस विल बी द बेस्ट थिंग विच वी कैन डू फॉर आवर चिल्ड्रन. और स्टेट बोर्ड्स के अंदर आप लोग यहाँ पे आए हुए हैं और मेरी बात हो रही थी इंद्रानी जी से, एंड वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट इट. ऐसे इनको ब्लूप्रिंट तो बता दो. ब्लूप्रिंट को पता ही नहीं है उनको. क्वेश्चन पेपर सेट कर देते हैं. आपको मालूम है कि क्वेश्चन पेपर टीचर्स कैसे सेट करते हैं क्लासों में? आपको मालूम है? क्वेश्चन पेपर आप देते हैं ना स्कूलों में टीचर्स को कि बनाइए. बिकॉज आई वॉज अ प्रिंसिपल तो आई नो. वो क्लास में ही बैठ के बच्चों को राइटिंग वर्क दे दिया और आधा घंटे में क्वेश्चन पेपर बन गया. आधा घंटे में क्वेश्चन पेपर बन जाता है. क्यों बन जाता है? ब्लूप्रिंट तो उनके हाथ में है ही नहीं. अगर ब्लूप्रिंट उनके हाथ में होगा तो वो करेंगे. डिज़ाइन होगा तो उनके हाथ में वो करेंगे. अगर आपने सैम्पल दे दिया, देखना भैया ऐसे ही बनना चाहिए, तो वो करेंगे. आप बोर्ड्स को इन सब चीज़ों के ऊपर ध्यान देना पड़ेगा. I won't take a lot of time over here, and I'll ask Dr. Agarwal to speak on the philosophical approach in the education, which is his field. He talks about philosophy a lot.
So friends, actually, Madam has already set the tone for this presentation. She has already told you what is the basic philosophy of NEP 2020. The key words, 2 years back we had that conference here, and the key words of NEP 2020, one of them is India-based education or Bharat Gyan-based education. Then inclusivity, then holistic. And the theme of that conference was this only, 2 years back, which we had done in Sikkim, which we had organized in Sikkim. Now, what is the philosophy of this? I'll make a presentation in detail now. These are 3 keywords, but in detail I will do it now. Alignment with the philosophical approach in the introduction, I've taken it out from the introduction itself. Alignment with the aspiration goals of 21st century education, including sustainable development goals. All of you must be aware of sustainable development goals of the UN. It's all started in 2015, and by 2030, is the goal that all the countries have to attain those goals by 2030. There are 17 goals, I think, and all the countries are working towards it, so our policy also talks about it. It is more concerned with the environment, environmental protection and conservation, because the environment is we have, as human beings, we have destroyed environment up till now. And we forgot that we are a part of this environment. And if the environment is destroyed, we also will perish. So it is that kind of thinking which the developmental goals, sustainable development goals are talking about. Then instilling knowledge and thought of India, of course, Bharat for developing national pride. Madam has already talked a lot about that. And we have another session where we will talk about this in more detail. Then learning how to learn. In fact, the crux of open schooling is learning how to learn. In the formal system, the teacher spoon feeds the students, and they are not able to think for themselves, they are not able to feel for themselves, they are not able to will for themselves. These are the 3 functions of the mind, but we don't teach them to do that. But open schooling learners have the freedom to learn, and learn on their own, on their own pace, and they can choose subjects according to their interest and ability, which up till now was not there in formal system. Of course, after this policy, even in the formal system, this choice of subjects will be not restricted now. It will be open, it will be flexible. So learning how to learn, as teachers, if we are able to make the students learn how to learn themselves, that is the task that we have to do. Then holistic education, of course, that is another key point in the policy. And we have been talking about holistic education for many years now in education, but we have not been able to do it. Now we have to do it. And holistic education will also mean, in the morning also somebody was saying that, a livelihood. The Honorable Minister had talked about vocational education and livelihood. So education for life and education for livelihood. Education for life means you have to make them good persons, good citizens. That is what education should be geared towards. And then vocational education for livelihood. This is one way of looking at holistic education. Of course, there are many other ways. Like when we talk about holistic education, we talk about physical development, mental development, spiritual development, and things like that. But there are different ways of looking at it. Then inclusivity in education, education for all. That was in 1993, there was a conference in Jomtien, UN conference, and there they talked about this education for all. This slogan came from there. But now that slogan has become cliched. It is very old. Now we are talking about inclusivity in education, which is more or less the same thing. So all levels of, like all classes, all groups of people have to be catered to. For example, the Divyang-jans. Our Honorable Prime Minister has given this word for the people with education, people with special needs. They are called Divyang-jans. We had that conference in UNESCO, I was mentioning it on that. Then empowering teachers to restore their high status in society. somebody was talking in the morning, or maybe in informal discussion, our rishis were scientists. Ancient rishis were really scientists. And teachers, guru has a very high status in our society, which has been lost through the years. So that has to be restored. Envisioning an education system rooted in Indian ethos. Of course, this is from the vision. Now we have come to the vision. That was from the introduction. So this is the same thing in Indian ethos. Transforming India, that is Bharat, sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society, and thereby global knowledge superpower. In fact, Gyan, the word Gyan in Hindi is much more than knowledge in English. Knowledge is actually very superfluous. And even when we teach Bloom's taxonomy in education, we talk about knowledge as the lowest rung in the cognitive domain. In the development of cognitive domain, knowledge is the lowest rung. And then, of course, we talk about understanding and application and analysis, synthesis, evaluation. And now creativity has also been added to that. And when we talk about transforming assessment, then we are talking about going to higher levels of assessment, so assessing higher order skills. Up till now, we have been able to reach application only. Providing high quality education to all, of course, developing in the students a deep sense of respect towards fundamental duties and constitutional values, as well as bonding with one's country. Bonding with one's country, I have made it bold. That is very important. What Madam was saying, we have the Britishers, and before them the Muslims, they came and they systematically took us away from our own culture, and we forgot our ancient glory, ancient Indian wisdom. We forgot that ancient wisdom. But now, and so we stopped bonding with our country. We don't love our country. We love other people. We love other religions, other cultures. And we think our culture is nothing. So that has to come now. Instilling among the learners a deep-rooted pride in being Indian, again, in a different way they are saying it. Deep-rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought, but also in spirit, intellect, and deeds. In 1813, the Britisher Macaulay had said the same words. He wanted education to be molded in such a manner that Indians become Britishers in spirit, intellect, and deeds. Something like that. It is not exactly the same words, but that is what he had done. And English education was introduced, and we were totally enslaved. Then supporting responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development and living, and global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen. It is only here in India that we believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, global citizen. The whole world is a family. That is the philosophy of our culture. We believe that all human beings are one family. So we are global citizens. Then there are guiding principles in the policy. From there, recognizing, identifying, and fostering the unique capabilities of each student by sensitizing teachers as well as parents to promote each student's holistic development in both academic and non-academic spheres. This policy, after me, Nidhi will talk about that, the NC of 2023. They have talked about non-academic spheres and academic spheres. They are laying stress on vocational education also. And in secondary, she will tell you later that environmental education is being made compulsory now at the secondary level. So things like that, you will speak more about that in the next presentation. According the highest priority to achieving foundational literacy and numeracy by all students by grade 3. Of course, this is the foundation. We have always talked about 3 R's. reading, writing, arithmetic. That is the same thing. But some international tests have also proved, the results have showed that our children are lacking in this basic literacy and numeracy. So we have to, and I think a mission has already been set up for literacy and numeracy. It is called Literacy and Numeracy Mission. Then flexibility, so that learners have the ability to choose their learning trajectories. I was talking about that in open schooling system. We have flexibility and programs, and thereby choose their own paths in life according to their talents and interests. Up till now, there were streams, science stream, social science stream, or humanities and commerce stream, and we were restricted in the formal system at least. We were restricted to choose any combination. We could not take any combination. We had to take only science subjects or commerce subjects or humanities. But this is not the way that sometimes in the lectures I say, do we have a point here which is in the mind, in the brain, which is for language, a point for social science, a point for mathematics, a point for commerce? It is not like that. It is holistic. So that is another way of looking at holistic. Interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary we are talking about. So holistic education has to be there. No hard separations between arts and sciences, between curricular and extracurricular activities, between vocational and academic streams, etc., in order to eliminate harmful hierarchies among and silos between different areas of learning. It is in our mindset up till it has come that those who study science and maths are superior, which is a myth. All subjects are equal if they are taken seriously, and if they are, because every subject has its own place in the world order. In education also, of course, but even in the world order, even in society, every subject is important. And this race, that everyone wants to be engineer or doctor, now it has to change. Multidisciplinarity and a holistic education across the sciences, social sciences, arts, humanities, and sports for a multidisciplinary world in order to ensure their unity and integrity of all knowledge. This is what I was talking about. This is called the world view in philosophy. We have to reach towards the world view. We have to understand our reality, our environment as a whole. They are not compartments. Environment is not divided into compartments. Environment is a whole. And so we are talking about multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity and holistic education. And now the policy is talking about integration, sports integration, arts integration in the curriculum. There will be more about it in the next. Emphasis on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for exams. In the keynote address also this point had come, that we have to move towards, and I was saying, thinking for yourself, feeling for yourself, and willing for yourself. That we don't teach thinking. We just feed them. I remember when we were studying in Department of Education, Delhi University, where I taught also later. One of our teachers used to say, there is a jagmag theory. It is believed that the teacher has a jug which is full over here, and the student has a mug which is empty, and the teacher has to pour into it. So rote learning. Nothing to understand. You don't understand anything. You just commit it to memory. So that has to go. Emphasis on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning. Creativity and critical thinking to encourage logical decision making and innovation. Of course, we have been talking about this earlier, and now it is emphasized more. Ethics and human and constitutional values like empathy, respect for others, cleanliness, courtesy, of course, value education we have been talking about for so long. Now these values have to be integrated into all subjects. Value education as a separate subject also can be thought of, but it has to be integrated into all subjects. Then promoting multilingualism and the power of language in teaching and learning. So we are talking about, our languages have to be revived and have to be preserved. And language is the tool for communication, is the tool for understanding, for comprehension. So languages are very important. We can't neglect them. And you will be told in the next presentation that NCF 2023 has made 3 languages compulsory at secondary level and 2 languages compulsory at senior secondary level. Up till now in CBSE and NIOS and other boards, there was only minimum 1 language they could take and maximum 2 languages. But now 2 languages for sure, compulsory in senior secondary and 3 in secondary. Life skills such as communication, cooperation, teamwork, and resilience. We have been talking about life skills for a long time, so they are important. Focus on regular formative assessment for learning rather than the summative assessment that encourages today's coaching culture. Actually, that CCE was introduced by CBSE some years back. That is what formative assessment, it's the same thing more or less. But it was done without planning, without making the teachers aware about it, and too much paperwork was there. That's why it failed. But formative assessment has to be there. Just one exam at the end of 1 year or at the end of 2 years is not the way to assess. Like earlier when I was a student, we had higher secondary 3 years. 3 years course used to be tested at the end of 11th class, 9th, 10th and 11th. 3 years course. Then came 10+2, then 2 years course was tested. And then they segregated 11th and 12th and 10th, 9th and 10th, and 1 year course is being tested. Even now it is like that. And now they are talking about semester system also. If there is so much curriculum load, then there will be rote learning, nothing more than that. So that has to be done. And it is the board's responsibility to do it. Full equity and inclusion in the cornerstone of all educational decisions to ensure that all students are able to thrive in the education system. So equity and inclusivity, we have already talked about. Extensive use of technology in teaching and learning. This is also coming up now in a very big way. And use of technology. And during COVID period, we made use of it, good use of it. Before that, teachers were not aware of technology at all. But now our teachers know technology. And it has to be used in an efficient and efficacious way. Respect for diversity and respect for the local context in all curriculum, pedagogy, and policy. So this is also important. We have Upadhyayji sir has talked about this at length, that he introduced the local in the stories and the local aspects he introduced in textbooks. This is in tune with NEP 2020. And he had done it before the NEP 2020 came into being. Then synergy in curriculum across all levels of education, from early childhood care and education to school education to higher education. Of course, it has to be, it is a continuum. But one thing we forgot, even this policy is silent about it, that for majority of students, senior secondary is a terminal stage. Earlier it used to be secondary. Now it is senior secondary. And we try to cater to students who have to go for higher education, which is, they are the elite. The masses, they are neglected. The masses will not go into higher education. And that's why vocational education is being stressed. Indirectly, NEP is talking about it. That is why vocational education has to come in a big way. Because they have to be prepared for livelihood after senior secondary only. And in fact, even in countries like USA, after senior secondary, they start working, boys and girls. They don't go for higher education, not many of them. Teachers and faculty is the heart of the learning process. Their recruitment, continuous professional development, positive working environments, and service conditions, of course. Teachers' glory has to be restored. Teachers' respect has to be restored. We have stopped respecting our teachers, and that is why, as Madam said, their rate is down in the marriage market, teachers, because we don't think that teaching profession is important, teaching profession. And this is not only in our country. Everywhere it has become like that, except in some countries, some very advanced countries like USA, teachers are respected. And some other countries also, but most of the places, teachers are treated as, low down. Light but tight regulatory framework to ensure integrity, transparency. This is, of course, the boards have to, when they go for, the schools have to be affiliated to boards. There, for that they are talking about regulatory framework, which should be light but tight. And ensure integrity, transparency. And of course, autonomy has to be given to the institutions, but they have to be regulated also. It's not that they should be, laissez-faire is a term which comes to my mind. Free for all, they can do anything they like. It's not like that. But too much restriction is also bad. They say that all extremes are bad. And of course, they are talking about outstanding research as a co-requisite for outstanding education and development. Continuous review of progress based on sustained research and regular assessment by educational experts. Of course, NCERT does that, SCERT does that in states, so that has to be done. Our rootedness and pride in India, again it has come, and its rich, diverse, ancient and modern culture and knowledge systems and traditions. Then education is a public service. Somebody had mentioned it, that education is a public service. Access to quality education must be considered a basic right of every child. And now it has to be till 12th. Right to Education Act was still from 6 to 14 years of age, till 8th class. Now, NCERT has already started working on this. They are reviewing or modifying the RTE Act. The keynote speaker of today had told me, yesterday over the phone, that this is being done. Then substantial investment in a strong, vibrant public education system, as well as the encouragement and facilitation of true philanthropic private and community participation. Now let us take a look at the provisions in the policy with regard to school education. Structure of school education has changed. Somebody talked about 5+, Professor K.M. Gupta was talking about, the structure has from 10+2, it has changed to 5+3 +4 +4. It has changed. Early childhood care and education, foundational literacy and numeracy, this is being stressed in school education. Curtailing dropouts and ensuring universal access to education at all levels. We have a session on this, role of open school education boards in this. Then curriculum and pedagogy in schools. This session is on that actually. Then learning should be holistic, integrated, enjoyable and engaging. That is what this session is also talking about. Language issues, yes, language is important, and not only, in fact, up till now what has happened, especially in the north, we only read English and Hindi. I know only 2 languages. But if the 3-language formula had been implemented in the right spirit, I would have known at least 3 languages, but it did not happen. I know only 2 languages, English and Hindi. Then curricular integration of essential subjects, skills and capacities. So we have talked about sports integration, arts integration, and all those things. Transforming assessment for student development, the keynote address was on that. So this is the essence of the philosophy of NEP 2020 that I have taken out from the policy, from the introduction, from the vision, and from the guiding principles. And of course, with regard to school education, there are some chapters on school education I have taken out from there. So this is the philosophy behind the NEP 2020. If we are able to understand this much and then think about how to implement it, then we will do our job. And the education boards have a role to play in that. All right? Thank you.
Before Nidhi talks about enlightens us more, continuous, you talked about rote learning. You know, interestingly, हमारे देश में rote learning पे ज़्यादा emphasis थी, but outside the individual learning पे भी. I remember हम लोग जो जहाँ पे बैठे हैं, of course कुछों को छोड़कर, कुछ बच्चों को छोड़कर यहाँ पे, लेकिन जो जरा ज़्यादा उसमें हैं, तो आपको याद होगा हम लोगों को वो पहाड़े सिखाए जाते थे, tables. We learned tables, and in Hindi also, you know, and English also, we learned tables and we mugged them up properly. I was in Tokyo and I bought something from there, and I said कि कितना I asked him how much money. So he said, I said it is only so much yen. I said so much yen, you are wasting time. He said, you're right, so much yen. I said, पहले सुन लेता मेरी बात. But इंडिया में हम लोगों ने ये रोट लर्निंग कर करके ना, we have learned things up. ऐसा नहीं है कि our system was bad. The system was good. Because हमारे ancient times में क्या था? स्मृति, स्तुति. याद कैसे होगा? स्मृति में कैसे जाएगी ना? जब बोलेंगे. When you are continuously repeating something, you will start learning. When I was in school, we learnt a prayer and I knew it by heart. But what I did not learn, it took me a lot of time to learn. So it becomes a little difficult. And then we talk about, very interestingly, Kuldeep sir talked about jagmug theory. You know, the jug is there. But अगर जग ही आधा खाली हो, तो मग कैसे भरेगा? You know, तो हमें को teachers को पकड़ना पड़ता है. We have to catch the teachers. चाहे कितना भी NEP आ जाए, लेकिन teachers के ऊपर भी तो हमें emphasize करना पड़ेगा. हमारी most important link टीचर है. द टीचर इज़ द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पर्सन. आपको उसको पकड़ना है, आपको उनको समझाना है कि जो भी आपने अभी बोला डॉक्टर अग्रवाल ने, व्हेन ही वाज टॉकिंग ही वाज सेइंग दैट ही टॉक्ड अबाउट NEP के जो फिलोसफी है, बट जैक्स डेलॉस हैज़ टॉक्ड अबाउट इट लॉन्ग टाइम बैक. लर्निंग टू लर्न, लर्निंग टू डू, लर्निंग टू बी, लर्निंग टू लिव इन पीस. He talked about all those things. जैक्स डेलॉस ने तो मेरे ख्याल 94-95 में प्रोफेसर राजपूत ने करी थी कॉन्फ्रेंस, उस यूनेस्को की कॉन्फ्रेंस थी. Delos Commission had come in, Jacques Delos. He talked about all these things. Learning to live in peace and harmony. We have not learnt. रोज़ TV खोलो तो कोई ना कोई मर रहा है, कोई कुछ हो रहा है, and you feel sad. But क्या हम कुछ कर पा रहे हैं? No, we are not able to do it. Because हमें ये जो भी करना है, वो स्कूलों में करना है. हमने अपने बच्चों को समझाना है कि this is जो तुमने दिया ही नहीं. Have you given life to anybody? How can you take away that life from that person? तो ये चीज़ें जो है, we have to catch the teachers also. And I'm sure कि NEP के में teachers के भी ऊपर भी कुछ ना कुछ mention ज़रूर किया गया होगा. So Nidhi, the mic is yours.
Good afternoon to the esteemed guests present here. I will be covering the topic National Curriculum Framework 2023 and implications for School Education Board. So since NCF is basically based on the philosophy of NEP only, most of the topics have already been covered that I'll be covering, but I'll just brief you about some of those. Let's first introduce NCF SE, that is School Education 2023. After a long period of 18 years, NCF came into being, and earlier it was that was followed was NCF 2005. We know that since India is growing at a fast pace, so there is a need for the education system to grow. Reason being that education is one of the important aspect, and the learners will be the future generation of India who will lead India to the first level. So coming to the introduction to NCF, it is based on the philosophy of NEP 2020, which is built upon promotion of universalization of school education, providing inclusive, flexible, and quality school education for life and livelihood. It emphasizes on imparting vocational skills with academic education for sustainable development of the nation and society. It embodies the forward-thinking vision for education in India. Coming to the division of NCF SE 2023, it is organized into 5 parts. The first one being aims of school education, that covers the content, it covers the time allocation, the pedagogy, and assessment that is to be covered. It also covers the school stages and how it is to be divided. The second part is the part B, which is on important cross-cutting themes. I'll be discussing about it in brief in the next slides. Reason being that this is the wholesome philosophy of NCF, and that the school boards have to follow when they'll be implementing it in making the curriculum and the textbooks and to teach the students. The part 3, that is part C, is on school subjects. It has been divided into different subject areas like language, science, social sciences. Then there is also vocational, mathematics, skill education, and art education, and similarly other subject areas. The part D is on school culture and processes, which talks about how the schools should proceed ahead, the environment that they should provide the students, and how there has to be the implementation of NCF in the school. The last part is part E, which is on ecosystem of schooling, which also talks about how the school system has to work so that they can cater to the needs of the student in a better way. Coming to the philosophy and the cross-cutting themes that are mentioned in NCF 2023, the first one being rootedness in India and Indian knowledge system. This has been talked in this entire technical session, how Anita ma'am also talked about how she had been learning history, how the teachers had been teaching history. There was also a mention of how Upanishads have many knowledge that we can give to the students, and similarly Dr. Kuldeep Agarwal also talked about how it is needed in current situation. We know that the history of India is long forgotten, and the students still fail to realize their culture, where they came from, their rootedness to their culture is long lost. So there is a need for the curriculum to be built in such a way that students can be proud to say that we are Indians and this is our contribution to the world, and things similar to that. So NCF has focused on it so that the students can know that what their culture really is. Second is values and disposition. Upadhyay sir mentioned about the intolerance in people, how there is disrespect amongst people, amongst colleagues, and if you're going around and let's just say that you're moving on a road and you bump into someone, there will be a clash between two people, and so values and disposition is long lost and long forgotten. It needs to be catered to, and the students from the initial level itself needs to be taught about what are the moral values, what is the need to inculcate these values in students, and they should know the rights and wrongs that are needed. The next one is learning about and caring for the environment. So we are where we live. Environment is a great part environment makes us who we are. So it needs a little care. Environment in itself is a provider, and it needs a little care. So we as a human are failing to provide the bare minimum that environment needs. And the basic level from which we can teach the people today is from the school level, that how they can take care of the environment, like not throwing litter here and there, and planting trees, taking care of the trees. And now that we know that there is a lot of pollution, especially in metropolitan cities, where we face, where we have to wear the mask every now and then. Like since I am from Delhi, we have seen that during the past few days, it was Diwali, and then the pollution was unbearable. And since this is because of the environment that we live in and we don't take care of it, it needs to be inculcated in the students so that they can take care of the environment as well. Inclusion in school is the next point. So we know, let's just suppose that we are in a group of 20 people, and we are not included in the group, reason being that there is a language barrier. So I suppose that me being the alone person in there, I'll not feel good. Let's suppose how would a student feel about it if they are not included in a group. So be it external factor or the internal factor, external factor where they have no control, let's just say a disability that they cannot overcome, or the internal factor where they have to build in confidence or things like that. So there has to be, the teacher, the school should provide an environment where every student is included in the group, wherein the forgotten student is asked to come up and is encouraged to give their part to be included in the group. So NCF also talks about it, and it also emphasizes on how the curriculum has to be made, wherein the disabilities, the caste, creed, and things like that can be neglected, and the textbooks and the curriculum can be made so that every person can be included and can feel included. The next one is guiding and counseling in school. According to the WHO report that came in 2017, it was noticed that there was a significant level of stress amongst adolescents. So this was before the COVID came in. Now, after COVID, what happened was there were online classes wherein the students were not socializing with their friends, they were not going out. Imagine the stress level today. Now that the schools have opened, it had been normalized to go out, but yet there had been some of the stress factor that was there, which have not been catered to, that still needs to be catered. So this is something that the school must keep in mind, that there has to be certain kind of guidance and counseling in school, so that the person who is stressed, because you will never know if the student is stressed, because if a student comes to you and say that, oh, I am worried about my exam, I cannot give my exam, and it is creating a tension in me. So what we usually do is we neglect it, because we think that it is a minimal thing, or itni choti si baat ki kya tension leni. So this is something that the school must cater to. Of course, there is a part that parents also play, but there is school, the teachers that should cater to it. Then comes the educational technology in schools. So basically, like Dr. Kuldeep Agarwal also mentioned, that during the COVID times, there was an increase in the, in the use of technological tools, let's say a PowerPoint presentation, online classes that were being conducted. So similarly, there has been a shift in the traditional schooling system to what we are following now, and the school should look at it that the educational technology is available in school, and every teacher is equipped with it and is well trained. Next, we come to the scheme of studies that is mentioned in National Curriculum Framework. We'll talk about the secondary level first. So it states that there will be 3 languages that will be made compulsory, R1, R2, and R3, out of which at least 2 should be native to India. Other than that, 3 languages plus there have to be 7 other academic subjects. So this is something. Yes. So yeah. Yes. So if you look at this figure, it has 3 languages. Then it has mathematics. It also has science, social science, art education. Environmental education is also made compulsory. Physical educational, and vocation education. Apart from these, there have to be external examination as well as local assessment with external examination. If you look at it, there are 7 subjects with external examination and the rest 3 are local assessment with external examiner. Coming to the senior secondary level, like it is there in secondary, they have made 3 languages compulsory. In senior secondary, they have made 2 languages compulsory and 4 subjects from at least 2 of the groups, namely Group 2, Group 3 and Group 4. These are the Group 2, Group 3 and Group 4. The Group 2 is on art education, music, dance, etc., physical education, vocational education. Group 3 is on social science, history, geography, political science, interdisciplinary areas, commerce, environmental education. Group 4 is on mathematics and computational thinking, mathematics, programming, coding, etc., science, physics, chemistry. So these are the certain areas, certain subjects that have to be offered to the students, and the students are free to choose from amongst any 2 of these groups. Since we have talked about what NCF have to offer, we must also look at what we as a board, we as a school can do to cater to their, implement the NCF in a better way. So the first one is quality education. Of course, before the NCF also, there has been a focus on that we should offer quality education to the students and not just rote memorize, help them in rote memorizing the concepts, but provide quality education with examples and real life experiences. We should also foster inclusive, adaptable, community focused educational system to the students. We should offer subjects as per the schemes of studies that have already been discussed. There has to be the curricula and textbooks to be developed as per the NCF. And the teacher training program is a must because NCF brings about a lot of changes that have not been followed till date, and the teachers who will be implementing, who will be dealing with the students, the education system, the schools need to be equipped with such things. So there has to be certain training programs so that the teachers can cater to their needs. There has to be promotion of assessment of literacy among teachers and learners. Now, being an open schooling board, we also play a role in the implementation of NCF, and these are the points that we should keep in mind when we are implementing the NCF. So, Open Schooling Board is known for its accessibility and flexibility in the education system. Reason being that students can come up and give their exam as per their choice. So there has to be more accessibility and flexibility in education. The inclusivity and alignment with national educational objectives have to be kept in mind because, of course, Open Schooling Board does, keep in mind to take in all the students they do cater to the inclusivity part. So the development of curriculum has to be as per the NCF. There has to be quality education for both the regular school as well as the Open Schooling Board. Self-paced open and distance learning has to be provided to the students. the development of learning material has to be done as per the NCF, and there has to be emphasis on skill development as well. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nidhi. You have really enlightened. You and Kuldeep, both of you have done quite a good job on telling us what the NCF is all about.
Thank you.
And it's been done really well. And you have worked hard on it. And I think all of us must have gained a lot from it. I was wondering about the 3-language formula. थर्ड लैंग्वेज को तो 2 लैंग्वेज तो समझ में आती है, अंग्रेज़ी कशों को आती है तो पढ़ लेते हैं हम लोग, जो हमारा मदर लैंग्वेज है वो भी हम पढ़ लेते हैं, बट थर्ड लैंग्वेज का क्या होगा, आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड. आई वॉज ट्राइंग व्हेन आई रेड दिस, ऑफ कोर्स इट्स नॉट बैड, and they said any one language, either foreign language or I remember when in my post graduation I picked up French, and I was in the class and I raised my hand and told the teacher, thoda sa Angrezi, please tell us in English also, ma'am. She put a pen down, she told me, she says, have you come here to learn about French or English? I said French. She says, then you cannot study French. I cannot translate it for you. And then I realized that she was so right. You know, in most of our government schools, what happens when we teach students, we translate English into our own language, whatever language we are doing, and then we go back and retranslate into English and then answer. Supposing I ask you a question, where is the cat sitting? The teacher will say, the cat, and where is she sitting? Billi kahan baithi hai? Then wo English mein answer dega. The cat sat on the wall. अब उस cat is sitting on the wall नहीं होगा, cat sat on the wall हो जाएगा. So you know, translation के अंदर हम लोग हमारे प्रॉब्लम ही हमारी एजुकेशन सिस्टम में यही है कि हम लोग जो हैं वो सिस्टम को पकड़ नहीं पा रहे हैं और उसी के अंदर ही हम घूमते रह जाते हैं. एंड ऐसे क्या होता है, हमारे सिस्टम के अंदर क्रिएटिविटी भी नहीं है. क्रिएटिविटी के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है हमारे सिस्टम के अंदर. और ओपन लर्निंग में तो मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि कैसे हम लोग कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज मैंने जो देखा है ओपन स्कूल, नेशनल ओपन स्कूल के अंदर देखा है, एंड वी वर आई वाज एडिटिंग देयर हिस्ट्री बुक्स, हिस्ट्री एंड कल्चर वाला बुक्स, एंड रियली बहुत मेहनत कर करके तो उसको लिखा लोगों ने, और उतनी ही मेहनत करके हम लोगों ने एडिट भी किया, हम कई लोग उसमें मेंबर्स थे. एंड एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दे हैड पिक्ड अप द चैम्पियन वाली कुंजी, यू नो, कुंजियाँ पकड़ पकड़ के दे रटोड इट ऑफ, और आंसर दे दी, और एग्ज़ाम के बाद जो है वो सारी कुंजियाँ कमरे के बाहर पड़ी हुई मिल जाती थी. विच द पर्सन जो बेचता था सड़क पर बैठकर, वो जल्दी जल्दी उसके नौकर आके उसको बटोरते थे और फिर वो दोबारा फैल जाती थी, बिक जाती थी या फिर इकट्ठी हो जाती थी. सो यू डोंट नो हाउ टू मेक पीपल अंडरस्टैंड. फिर उसके बाद हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं कि नॉलेज को इतना कंप्रेस करके एक ही किताब में इतना कुछ भर रहे हैं दैट आई थिंक द टीचर हु इज सेटिंग द क्वेश्चन पेपर डज नॉट नो हाउ टू सेट दैट पेपर. लॉन्ग आंसर तो उसको पता ही नहीं चलता मैं कहाँ से शुरू करूँ और कहाँ ख़त्म करूँ उसको जाके. और बच्चों को भी और टीचर को जो ब्राइट टीचर्स है वो बता देती है बच्चों को इसमें से ये आएगा और इसमें से ये आएगा, क्योंकि 8 नंबर का क्वेश्चन तो इसी में से ही आएगा. तो बच्चा घोंटे मार मार के उसको याद करता है, अच्छी तरीके से याद कर लेता है, पास हो जाता है. फिर MCQs आते हैं, उसको मालूम है 40 में से 30 आ गए ना, बस 3 ही तो चाहिए, ज़्यादा क्या करना मेहनत करके. लेकिन MCQ इज़ वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट. मेरे को तो लगता है अगर मेरे को पढ़ना पड़ता है MCQs तो फेल ही हो जाती. आई वोंट नो व्हाट टू डू, क्योंकि इतना डिफ़िकल्ट है. बट दे नो, बिकॉज अब उनका बड़ा सिंपल सा फार्मूला है, ABC, एक को एक मारा, फिर दूसरे में B मारा, फिर तीसरे में C मारा, फिर अगेन ABC कुछ तो सही होगा ना, कहीं तो सही होंगे, सारा गलत हो ना, इतना हम अनपढ़ तो नहीं है ना. ABC, ये इस तरीके से बच्चे पढ़ लेते हैं. तो दे हैव लर्नड द ईजियर वे टू लर्न. तो आई डोंट नो, आई गॉड ब्लेस द NCF ऑल्सो, आई डोंट नो कि कैसे होगा. आई रियली वॉन्ट माई कंट्री टू कम अप, बिकॉज कई साल पहले जब मैं बाहर जाती थी तो वो इंडियंस आ रहे हैं, ओ बाहर जाओ, दे वुड नॉट इवन टॉक टू अस. वी वर सो इंसल्टेड, इतना बेइज्जती हमारी होती थी इंडियंस की. बट टुडे मर्सीफुली आज जब जाते दे स्माइल एट यू, से आइए, कम, आई हैव लॉट्स ऑफ न्यू थिंग्स टू शो यू, एंड यू फील प्राउड. I don't know what you feel, but when ये हाउडी क्या था, हाउडी मोदी हो रहा था बाहर, तो दैट टाइम आई वॉज इन मिलानो, एंड आई वॉज इन दी होटल लॉबी के अंदर. मैंने कहा खाना खाने जाऊँ, तो वहाँ पे बहुत बड़ा टेलीविजन लगा था. They all wanted to see Howdy Modi. That was in Milano in Italy. I was surprised. I don't know why they were so interested. खैर इन्होंने और फिर उसके बाद बहुत जोर जोर से तालियां बज रही in the hall. Okay, not in the television, in the hall. And I went out to see कि हो क्या रहा है. And there I saw the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister standing there. मेरा प्रधानमंत्री. Howdy, and people clapping. You know, the Italians and the other foreigners जो भी थे वहाँ पे, Indian में तो मैं ही थी. And honestly, will you believe it or not? I cried. मेरे को इतना रोना आया because I felt so proud. Oh, मेरे Prime Minister के लिए तालियां बज रही हैं इतनी ज़ोर ज़ोर से. I felt happy. And I think अगर हमारा ये curriculum हम लोग जो कर रहे हैं, अगर हम लोग कामयाब हो जाते हैं, I am very sure कि we will all feel proud of our country. And that's what I want to feel. I want to feel proud of my own country, of my own culture, of my own civilization, of my own people. ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. सो प्लीज़ आप बोर्ड्स के लोग हैं और बोर्ड्स स्कूलों में तो इतना ज़्यादा नहीं पहुंच पाते हैं, लेकिन अगर आप पहुंच पाते हैं, एंड इफ़ यू आर एबल टू कंट्रोल द बोर्ड्स, इफ़ यू आर एबल टू कंट्रोल द स्कूल्स अंडर यू, आई एम श्योर कि वी विल नॉट बी लैगिंग बिहाइंड. हम कम नहीं हैं. लेट मी अश्योर यू, हम लोग कम नहीं हैं. People abroad, they want to send their students, they want their Indian education system to be implemented there. They want our system to be implemented there. वो कहते हैं ये ज़्यादा अच्छा है, आपका सिस्टम बहुत अच्छा है, हमारा सिस्टम इतना अच्छा नहीं है. And I was wondering कि हमें तो ये बताया जाता था कि हमारा सिस्टम ही कुछ नहीं है. You know, पता नहीं क्यों उनका अब ये ऐसा क्यों महसूस हो रहा है. बट वो भी अच्छा खुशी हुई थी, अच्छा लगा था. And I say best of luck to this new system which has come in, and I hope we all succeed. So thank you very much. And again, I must please एक जोरदार ताली बजा दीजिए बोसे के लिए. You know, एक छोटा बच्चा इतना बड़ा काम कर जाए, they deserve. They deserve it, isn't it? तो ये बाकी boards भी come forward, please. Thank you so much. अब किसका है? टी ब्रेक. अच्छा, हम टी ब्रेक को देंगे. टाइम क्या है?
Thank you so much, Anita Devraj ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Kuldeep sir and Ms. Nidhi Kapoor. We shall now resume after a short tea break for the second technical session. Thank you.
Morning going? What happened? Decided?
Yeah.
Done.
We shall now start with the second session. For the technical session 2, implementation of NEP 2020 by school education boards, the session will be chaired by Dr. Yadav, Chairman, Board of School Education, Haryana. And for the speakers, we have Manoj Srivastava, PE, CBSE, Dr. Sona Ahuja, Dean, Dayal Bagh Educational Institute, Agra, Dr. Shamim Chaudhary from Cambridge International, a global qualification provider and part of University of Cambridge, United Kingdom, Shri Mahesh Balakrishnan, International Baccalaureate, and Professor V.K. Goyal, Secretary, CGBSE, Raipur. I request our esteemed dignitaries to please come on the dais.
A very good evening to all. We begin with the second technical session of this conference. It's basically on implementation of NEP 2020 by school education boards. And we have distinguished speakers, 4 speakers are there. And now we are left out with only 50 minutes. So we need to work on to this also as to the time limit which we need to restrict ourselves. Since this session is about NEP implementation and there has been a lot of talk about it. There was a talk about shifting from rote learning to competency-based education. Now, what I understand basically is we need to be clear about what is rote learning. Is it required? And if it was of no use, then why is it going on for such a long time? See, when we come to rote learning enhances or rather helps us in memorizing certain facts. अब क्लास में टीचर्स बोलते हैं लर्न करना है, लेकिन बच्चे उसको याद करके लेते, दे मेमोराइज. टीचर राइट्स write and learn. Actually, that is a wrong way of giving a homework. The terminology should be write and memorize. Learning happens when there is a change in behavior. That exactly is learning. कई बार कहते हैं पढ़ लिख गया पर गुणा नहीं, गुणों का समावेश नहीं हुआ. Anything leads to change in behavior or improvement in behavior is learning. So our focus should be on learning. Now when we say competency based questions, now questions, again there are many of us who need to deliberate on what is competency based questions. When we generally try to understand or ask about or assess the knowledge, questions which are what, where, when, simple, they test your knowledge, information you have gathered, straightway question. But somebody asks you why, how, interpret, analyze, draw conclusion, these are competency based questions. They test your abilities. So this is what we need to change as per the NEP 2020. Then there is a lot of talk about life skills. Now when we talk of life skills, it's very simple. That they help us in dealing or acquiring those abilities which will help us in life. Up now, WHO has basically identified 10 life skills. And we categorize them in 3 categories. One, we talk of thinking skills. Self-awareness is one skill. Unfortunately, क्या हमारे बच्चे, हम सब अपने बारे में कम जानते हैं, दूसरों के बारे में, देखो सबने बोल दिया, ज़्यादा जानते हैं. तो basically, self-awareness is more important, not others' awareness is not important. We have to be self-wise rather than otherwise. Then critical thinking, our ability to analyze and process information. This will happen when there are competency-based questions. Critical thinking, out of the box thinking. वो कहते हैं ना हम लोग बहुत champions हैं नकल करने में. So that has to be done away with. Then decision making and problem solving. These are some of the life skills. Again, these life skills as per NEP 2020 will be developed when we are basically asked those type of competency based questions. Now, how will we develop? The most important aspect, now there is a lot of talk about teachers, कि nobody wants to come to this profession, that this is not a choice profession, because it does not command that respect in society which other profession commands. But still, that Guru Shishya Parampara, which is being spoken in NEP, if it returns, then definitely Lord is going to change. So what is important is that to develop teachers, we earn respect in society when we are competent. Now most of the B.Ed which is being done in the country, it is without attending the class. It is non-attending. And the problem is that with the privatization of education, most of things have become commercial. So we need to look into, NEP needs to address this problem. 50 hours of continuous professional development of teachers is very essential. So this is another thing. When the teacher will be well developed, will be knowledgeable, then real justice in the classroom will be done. We had been talking of learning objectives before, but now we have shifted from learning objective to learning outcome. It is not what I want to learn, but what I will be able to do after learning this, which competencies I will be able to acquire. This is what NEP 2020 wants to address and tell us. So with this, I understand we'll be all deliberating on this technical session, I invite Dr. Manoj Srivastav from CBSE to come and give his presentations.
Good afternoon. I presume that 50-minute time given to us is equally distributed, or the speaker who just spoken about NEP, there will be a concession, because normally in board we give concession of times.
It was divided by 4, now it is divided by 5. Because I already spoken. Yeah, thank you.
Believe you me, I am here since morning and I was thinking as to how do I sum up my entire presentation in 10 to 15 minutes, and so that is the way it should be. I would quickly say one thing, that in government, if something has been decided, it has been decided, and that thing become undiscussable now. So there is an NEP in place, and there is NCFSE in place, and there is NCFS in place. All that we need to do is to find way out to implement it. In CBSE, we take every new embarkment as a challenge, and we work very hard. We try to create a system, but the problem is our size is little big. We deal with roughly around 3 crore children, and then 35 states and union territories, multiple languages, roughly around 16 lakh teachers, 30,000 odd schools. So you can imagine that small change or a small intervention has a wider ramifications. So we need to do things in a very, very well-crafted manner. And many of board must be thinking that let CBSE come out with some strategy or some action plan or some roadmap, so that we would be replicating it with minor adjustment here and there, and you would also be there with us. But we are also taking time, because we are doing a lot of consultation process. This is what it looked like, if you see the Kerry Packer revolution, what looked in an orthodox cricket setting 1977, nobody was willing to give any space to Kerry Packer. And he came out with a wide range of crazy ideas. He started with some 51 leading cricketer, and he hosted not test match, because that word was not granted to him. And then he coined another words, and he says super test. The ground was not given to the business tycoon. He used the rugby playground to come up and to have something which has completely changed the entire dynamics of cricketing as a game. If you see what used to be a 5 days match converted to a 1 day match, a night cricket over to day cricket, and color clothing was, white was replaced by colored clothing, and then white side screen was turned to black, and many other things. And now we have, we also replicated. We had an ICL which was launched by Z Delhi Films. There was some problem because initially they were not recognized, and then BCCI came up with IPL, and today we have 50 overs match and 20 overs match and whatnot. And every player has an opportunity to show their talent, and many other ancillary units are also cropping up. So we must initiate. There would be problem. Unless you initiate, you will not get to know where are the initial teething problem, what adjustment we need to do in the course of embarkment. And there is also something called learning from each other, so that we avoid reinventing the wheel. So this is in the background in which I thought we will initiate. So in CBSE, we are not discussing as to what is not there in NCFSE or what is not there in NEP. What is there has been given to us as a mandate, and we are working very hard on it. And what we have done over the last couple of years, I'm going to showcase in another 5 minutes. If you go to the ministry website, it reads this. It requires initiatives and actions taken by multiple bodies in a synchronized and systematic manner. Policy provides different timelines. Implementation is being led by various bodies, because we know that there are state board, there are ICSE, there are NIS, there are CBSE. So it has to take its own time. And government is very clear. That is how NEP was given in public domain. NCF FS was put out in public domain. NCF FE was put out in SE was put out in public domain to invite wider consultation, and then the government settled with something like this. And largely, it has 5 things: learner-centric education, digital learning, industry-institute collaboration, academic research and internationalization, and Indian knowledge system. Now, what we did, we could realize that principle is a critical mass in the entire supply chain. So we thought we'll focus on principle. Every principle is being followed, being pursued for an extensive training program on a regular basis. And all gamut of NEP is being covered. I would take just 5 seconds for each slide. These are the initiation that we have done. We have started, you know, if you have read NEP, it talks about key stage assessment. Key stage assessment for 358. We have started SAFL, and we are implementing it. We have already done in 1800 odd schools, and we have shared the outcome. And you will be happy to know that the outcome of SAFL, the outcome of ASER report, and the NAS finding, they are on sync. They all collectively go to indicate that in country, the language and mathematical ability is actually declining. So there is something that needs to be immediately attended by all the boards. We have also started working on HPC, and it is based on the prototype which was provided by the NCERT. Now, you know that the different groups have been formed. Some of the assessment are being shifted to school education. How do you ensure a standardization, a quality parity between an internal assessment happening in a school or happening in a board assessed scenario? So we have to bring a system, an SOP or some kind of a protocol or mechanism or sensitization that internal assessment also stands to the scrutiny. It gets accepted. You cannot have a school doing in isolation and giving marks whichever way they wish like to, and then comparing it with the board conducted examination. So there has to be a system. We are consulting with all the principals and nodal supervisors, other boards also, to frame a rule about it. Then NEP talks about multilingual education. We have written to all schools because they are located in different states. We want to encourage multilingualism in the states, and therefore the focus is also on teaching using mother language as the medium of instruction. So we have told them to somehow figure it out how in their school they can encourage the curriculum transaction into the local languages. And that has not been made mandatory. NCFSE also talks about open textbook. We have formed a committee. Committee is looking at as to how much of it can be given as a part of formative assessment to the school. And there is a work which is going on. And maybe another 2-3 months we'll come with a formal operational document. Initiating research through Center of Excellence. We have 17 Center of Excellence in this country. Why we have done it? Because each year, whatever result we declare, subject-wise analysis we do, and we do it in sync with various other reports, so that there is a focus attention for a subject, for a teacher, for a school, for an area, and that is also happening. In SAFL, if you know the key stage assessment has got to be a very, very non-intimidating assessment exercise. It doesn't deal with a single kid, to give his or her ranking or performance. It is an idea to figure out how the child is doing within the ecosystem of a school. And then that is how we have decided a proficiency band, a performance band. We call it below basic, basic and proficient and advanced. And the explanation is also given that in case you perform, let us say if you are being tested for grade 8 and you are performing only at grade 6, then you are below basic. So these are the overall description we have given, and schools have also been given feedback that your kids are lying in this area, and therefore you make improvement. If you see this table, you could figure out below basic and basic, grade 5 language mein dekhiye, it is 43%. So this is an area of intervention. Both management, and that is why I have used the word influence. Every teacher, every principal, every board officials have to somehow influence the ecosystem to look, this is a very clear, vivid area of direct intervention, 43%. Grade 5 mathematics, 17%. If you add basic into it, it becomes around 52%. So which is an area of concern. We are scaling it up. We started with 18,000 school. We did pilot. In CBSE, what we are trying to do, we are not doing anything in a hurry. We first do pilot, get a feedback, we fine tune it, again make those finer changes so that it becomes more acceptable and pragmatic. This is the grid we have adopted. Every NCF-SE actionable point has been converted into what it is actually aiming for and what is the action plan in place. If there is a pilot needed, then what is the timeline for the pilot, and then the second stage of scrutiny or review at the senior level, and then absolute rollout. This we have done for, let us say, introduction of compulsory third language. For each of the actionable point, we have made this. I am not discussing this. This presentation will be available with the BOSSE. Coordination with states. Compulsory third language. I was talking to the officers from the Punjab board that there is a component of third language. So, and CBSE has to rely on the textbook to be prepared either by the State Bureau or the SCRT. Therefore, we are writing to all of them because the whole idea is to give popularity and weightage to the local regional language, and that can only happen when SCRT helps us. Now, implications, I think Nidhi has discussed. Now, what we have done, we are not discussing implications. We have started that we have a subject basket. Now, these subjects should be converted into groups. We are not going to reinvent the wheel. So, the subjects which are fitting into the existing group so that the job is minimum. And we have made a committee and we are trying to push the subject. We have roughly around 186 subjects. Each subject is being pushed to the respective group so that we are ready with where we have already reached. Now, we have made changes. When you do a mega intervention like a policy, educational policy document, you have to have a structural reforms because it has a kind of a domino effect. When you change curriculum, you change book. When you change book, you change your assessment framework. You also change the question paper typology, etc., etc. So somebody in the morning was talking about 2 board examination. Let us understand one thing very clearly, that for the first, the board examination to happen in twice in a year, you have to have books in your hand. What are you going to test it for, child? So the book becomes first priority. All other things are simultaneously happening. Experiential learning, art and sport integrations, competency-based learning. Competency-based is something which is very new to the ecosystem. Teachers are not trained. So what we have done, we have engaged with Ajim Premji University. We are also reaching out to IGNOU to develop specific courses which could, equip our teachers to do a real good job in terms of item selections, item moderation, translation and whatnot, so that the competency-based education is addressed in its truest sense. Structural changes, all of you must be knowing that there is something called Bal Vatika that has come in. So we have written to all affiliated schools that you have to make a provision for Bal Vatika. So these structural changes have also been done and schools have been given certain concessions also. Massive training is going on. If you have seen the CBSE website, anything that I am talking here is in public domain. It is all given on the website. आप देखिए वो सारे लिंक वहाँ मौजूद हैं, आप सारे लिंक को डाउनलोड करिए, सारे सर्कुलर्स हैं, आप उसको जैसे इस्तेमाल करिए क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली मैं भी चाय पे भी बात कर रहा था, हमारा एक ही फोकस है हम सबका Our focus is on child, our focus is on a quality education, and that is what the government of India expects from all of us. So everything is in public domain, and please feel free to reach out to us. School culture and process. We have also tried to reach out to the parents. School management. Vocational education. This graph would show that there is a consistent growth from 2019 to 2024. If you see the growth both in secondary level and senior secondary level really consistent. And we have also added more and more skill-oriented subject, which is based on the market demand. And the certification comes from, if you see the study material comes from, prepared by NCERT and PSI. And wherever it is not available, CBSE develops its material and uploads on the website. So school cannot tell that books are not available. All that we develop, do a lot of curation, review, and then we push it to the public domain. And the certification is happening with CBSE and National Stock Exchange, CBSE and NCH, MCT, and various other organizations. So it has a lot of employability value and preservation value from that sense. We have developed skill modules because the NEP talks about a greater vocationalization even at the middle stage, so that there is a sense relating to the dignity of labor and stuff like this. So skill module, skill subject, internship, industry relationship. We are entering into a lot of alliances with the industries. Skill Yatra, Exposure Visit, Skill Hubs Initiative. आपको इसमें से आप जितने भी बोर्ड बैठे हैं, मैं आप सबको निवेदन करना चाहूँगा, आपको इस बारे में कोई भी इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए, प्लीज़ रीच आउट टू अस, वी विल प्रोवाइड यू. ये हमारे सब्जेक्ट्स हैं 10th and 12th में. आप ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टेड होंगे 2 बोर्ड एग्जामिनेशन के बारे में, वो उसकी चर्चा हम कर चुके हैं. द एंटायर इशू इज़ अंडर अ डिटेल एग्जामिनेशन बिकॉज we are not in a situation, we would actually, all of us would, as a board officers, we would aim for a situation where you don't have to create a center of examination. Why? The same school can conduct the examination, but there is an element of suspicion or some kind of a foul play. So you need to create a center. Why do we need an invigilation? Why? If I am disciplined, I have maintained my some degree of probity and integrity, why should I need an invigilation? So unless that happens, the existing system should continue. Center notification, the roll number generation, the subject change cases, the transfer from child to here and there, all these practical difficulty will be there. So mere announcement of 2 board examination has a lot of things to happen at the back end. So board is looking at all possible changes from curriculum, desperately awaiting for the NCERT to release its books. They are working very hard on it, which Professor NCERT has spoken this morning. And then what is the minimum timeline? Because generally we find around 45 to 55 days it takes for an examination results to be processed and to be declared. So when you conduct one more examination, where are the areas where we can do some process re-engineering to cut time? So all that is happening, and this cannot be piloted. You can do pilot for let us say training or for a subject, but examination cannot be done on a pilot basis. Board examination obviously. So it has to be very well thought out strategy, and we are working on it, especially internal assessment, and then what should be the weightage of internal assessment, and if internal assessment has to happen, whether the school from the neighboring city or the same city will go. So all these things are being examined, and we will surely come, I'm a part of that committee, so we'll come with some action plan and we will share with all of you. Languages, we are reaching out to SCRT, and we have as far as institutional changes are concerned, we have also implemented the school quality framework, which is a recommendation of NEP, and for that also a lot of capacity building is going on. I mentioned training, I mentioned capacity building for competency assessment, I mentioned for institutional preparedness to deal with these changes. So on all areas we're working, and maybe in 3 to 4 month time, as far as CBSE is concerned, everything, the blueprint for every action plan that we have post NEP and NCFSE, we will have in place. Thank you so much, and I have nothing more to add. We have discussed enough in NEP and NCFSE this morning. And I have to express my thanks and gratitude to MC Sharma sir, the former controller of examination, the COBSE General Secretary, Asano ma'am, the chairperson, the Nagaland board, Kuldeep ji. Kuldeep ji has been, now we are looking tired, but Kuldeep ji kabhi tired dikhte nahi hai, wo मैं ये देख रहा हूँ. So there's a lot to learn from you, Kuldeep ji, and many other eminent speakers, and especially the board of open schooling and skill education, to have taken this initiative despite being a very new in the ecosystem, and then inviting us to a lovely place like this. It's not a small state, it's a great state, great people, great hospitality, and we are having a nice time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj Shrivastava. You have elaborately explained on the initiative Influence Inspire. The initiatives like SAFL and SCOA, School Quality Accreditation, or Assessment and Assurance that we have been talking of. I think CBSE has done with this terminology called a sort of what called, you were talking about assessment and assurance in your SCOA. But the term accreditation has been rather done away by CBSE. So
Why we have done it? Because in this country nothing works unless there is an enforcement. So we have integrated this quality assessment framework as a prerequisite to the affiliation process. So every new school which is coming to CBSE for affiliation will have to undergo a self-assessment program.
That's a wonderful idea, but what happens is, to align it with the terminology used in the NAP 2020, it would be my suggestion and request to CBSE to include the word accreditation as well. That's it. Thank you. You have done wonderful. Nice. Now next, and you have even stuck to the timing. That I think we should clap for him. All right. It was exactly finished in time. We have next speaker, Dr. Sona Ahuja, rather Professor Sona Ahuja. It has been from Dalbagh Education Institution, Agra, and her topic is implementation of NAP at the DEI schools. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, the topic of my presentation is implementation of NEP 2020 at DI board schools. I'll briefly present the NEP highlights and then how we implement it in our DI board schools. Now, the agenda for sustainable development is reflected in SDG 4, Sustainable Development Goal 4, which seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. Now, this is a lofty goal, and the entire world is changing the landscape of the education for this. And so has NEP also taken the initiative. And NEP lays emphasis on development of creative potential along with foundational capacities and higher order capacities. Why NEP was not a challenge for us? Because NEP education policy was introduced in 2020, and at DEI, the entire education system is based on DEI education policy, which was formulated in 1975 by the founder director of DEI, most revered Dr. M.B. Lal Sahab. And we can see the elements, I will discuss, most of the elements which are there in NEP are being already covered. Now, the education at DI started in the form of REI, a co-educational middle school on 1st January 1917. So school education in DI is not new, but it's more than 100 years old. And gradually, we moved to high school, high secondary, and then it grew to Dalbagh Educational Institute, deemed to be university. I'll cover the part 1 of NEP, school education, these 8 points, what we exactly do in this. So beginning with the curriculum and pedagogical structure in school education, this is what NEP proposes, and we have this. So at foundational stage, we have further divided this into 3 phases. First one beginning from 3 weeks to 4 years. So Bal Vatika, Anganwadi, the preschool education at our system begins at 3 weeks. And the second cluster is 4 to 6 years, 6 to 8 years. I'll share what are the activities and how do we implement. So the first one is the early childhood care and education, the foundation of learning. So NEP has emphasized that the need for this is, the preschool, is that students are school ready before grade 1 and to attain the optimal outcomes in several domains like ranging from physical, motor, cognitive, and so on. So what we do is we have introduced a scheme called Superman Evolutionary Scheme at DEI. So I'll first of all, okay. Let me just, sorry for this trouble. Yeah, I'll mute this so that I can speak and make it faster. Okay. Okay, so this is just a small video which shows what are the activities we have in the Superman Evolutionary Scheme. The toddlers as young as 3 weeks are enrolled in the scheme, and it is in the age group of 3 weeks to 12 years. So gradually, child moves from informal learning environment to the formal schooling, that is through LKG or in the preschool, that is nursery, to the primary school. And this is till 12 years we are connected with them, and these are the 4 clusters. And the domains targeted range from physical to spiritual, giving the Indian knowledge system touch. And the location, the beauty is the agroecology cum precision farming fields. So they learn in the natural environment and no walls, which is very close to nature. And 489 plus minus centers across the world are connected. So these students get the exposure to multiple cultures, multiple languages. So not only one language. So this is just exposure I'm talking about, not teaching them anything. And the activities that we focus on is environmental awareness, since it is in the natural environment, self-defense training, you can see health checkups and recreation for them, cultural programs in which all the students from across 489 plus minus 1 centers participate. Music is the also key element here, games and sports, and the language development. 3 languages right from 3 weeks. They just listen when they are of 3 weeks. They start babbling, and when they start speaking, so all the commands that we give in the self-defense training, it is in English, Hindi, and Sanskrit. So 3 languages, this is how we start with at the early childhood. Okay, so I'll skip this video. This is a big video. Okay, then I've also mapped other points which are missed here. So NEP says Anganwadi, Balvatika, and it says that it should be co-located, and also stand-alone Balvatika should be there. So what we have is, I have already discussed, so it is in agroecology cum precision farming fields, that is natural environment, which, and the all the other schools, the nursery and the primary schools are in the vicinity, so it is standalone and co-located as well. Then NEP says universal access, especially coverage of disadvantaged. So when I say 489 plus minus 1 centers, we also include tribal and remote areas. So we have developed the internet connectivity, which I presented last year. How did we do it? And so we cover all the locations, all the age groups, all the different students with different abilities. And it talks about school complex programs, as I said that. In the video also it was there. So joint programs of all the phases from 3 weeks up to 12 years is organized. So they get to interact, and peer group learning is there. And so school complex, this we achieve as all the levels, these sections are in vicinity to each other. So it is kind of school complex. Then NAP focuses on midday meal. We work in close collaboration with the university. So Department of Home Science plans the midday meal for them, the nutritional food. And health checkups are done by the community hospital. So we have expert doctors, pediatricians, and they regularly monitor the health. That was also shown on the video. And for teacher training, we have workshop organized. I'll talk in point number 5 of NEP, what else we do for teachers. Then the next is foundational literacy and numeracy, what we do to achieve this. The first one is assessment of minimum learning outcomes. So NCERT has already laid down the minimum learning outcomes up to class 8, and the document was released on 31st January 2017. So what we do is, from these minimum learning outcomes, we do random checks in the school. Now, how do we achieve this? From where do we get the manpower? So as I said that we are working in close collaboration with the university. So students of pursuing post-graduation in teacher education, that is MEd, have to conduct some research as part of their dissertation project. So some of the students undertake such projects wherein they learn how to assess the minimum learning outcomes, and what else they can do is like correlating it with the gender, with the location, so they learn research. And this objective is also achieved that the schools are alert that we'll be tested for our MLOs, minimum learning outcomes. And what else we do is we have summer workshops. If at all we find lacuna, then we have remedial classes, bridge classes, and day boarding. So we have mentors from the community who support us, and we have day boarding close to their places, and there we organize sessions, and we provide them help in the content wherever they have missed in this school. Then we try to maintain the pupil-teacher ratio under 30:1, which is very good for ECCE. And then the robust system of continuous formative assessment, I would discuss this by what do I mean by formative assessment and how do we implement it. And these are the activities which many schools must be doing it. Okay, now this is very important point. Mr. Telang in his presentation said that dropout is a problem, and the major reasons that he shared was lack of interest in academics after class 8th and looking for the employment. So what we do is we have the multiple entry exit model that we have adopted since long back. What's there in this model is, so the red line shows the regular progression. So a student has choice to pursue his school education from pre-nursery up to class 12th, or to leave wherever he wants, like from class 8, if he wants to leave, then he can join the modular courses. So we have a lot of modular courses provided by the Technical College and Women Polytechnic of the university, and also the certificate courses. So they earn the credits, and this gives recognition of their prior learning. So through these credits, they can earn certificates or diploma or degree and so on. And if they want to go back to the system, to the school system, after pursuing the modular courses, like very simple courses through which they can earn at least their fees, then they can go back to the system. So this makes them financially independent to some extent and continue their education. So this is the model that we adopt for reintegrating dropouts and ensuring universal access to education. Now for curricular and pedagogical practices, NEP says minimization of rote learning, encouraging holistic development. Now this is a very term which is in vogue, holistic development. How do we do it? Holistic development. So these are the abilities NEP wants us to develop in the students. So this is our holistic development model. So we already have skill-based education, earn while you learn scheme right after class 8th. So they can stay in the campus, they can earn, and I can share the model in detail, and then we have tinkering activities. So these are work experience-based courses to ensure that they don't drop out because of the financial constraints. And then we have foundational courses and correlated approach. So I'll skip this and go to the next one. Okay, so these are some of the glimpses that will show you what do we mean by holistic development. Working in the agroecological environment to inculcate the dignity of labor. You cannot develop the dignity of labor by giving them lecture or telling them stories. But they work there in the group and they learn. Indian culture, NCC, participation in NCC, games and sports. They get marks for participating in games and sports. So that is incentive for them. So it is part of the integral part of the curriculum, games and sports. Yoga. And then how do we achieve the skilling? So we have adult tinkering labs from middle school onwards. And also we have these labs not only in the urban areas, but also in remote areas. Rajabarari, which is a tribal cluster in Madhya Pradesh, Harda district. And this is government project. Government has made it open for all the schools. So you don't have to spend money, your own money. You have to just take the initiative. Then we have do-it-yourself lab in the primary schools, heuristic learning center, where trial and error approach, discovery approach we encourage. Let them discover, let them find out the knowledge rather than we giving them, putting them the information. And at high school level, we have several courses. I'll show you briefly the glimpses. At middle school level and at primary school level, we have SUPW, which is also not new. Socially useful productive work. This is how we begin with the introduction to skilling. And okay, so these are the glimpses of the skilling. So they have music in their course, garment making, food processing, adult tinkering labs, and the use of latest technologies, textile designing. So this is all students are learning, they are doing, and this enables them to earn while learning. So no financial constraints. Okay, now another question was, everybody was saying how to inculcate values and ethics. So again, I said you cannot teach values at all, neither through stories, nor through lectures. Stories, they may listen, they may remember, make them do it. So we have core courses for the holistic development. So to develop national ethos, we have course on cultural education, right from primary up to university level. And then for scientific temper, we have course on general knowledge. So this is integral to the curriculum. We have semester system. In one semester, some of the core courses we offer, and in the next semester, other courses. Then for understanding of rural life, rural development course, humility and dignity of labor, agriculture operations. It also develops brotherhood of man, casteless and classless society, social service. We have co-curricular activities in form of theater, literary, music, creativity for all-round development. Again, they have weightage for this, the marks in the evaluation, so that motivates them to participate. For healthy body and mind, games and sports. And for tolerance and sense of national integration, we have comparative study of religions. As a student of DI, I also studied several religions. So I know about Japanese and Buddhism and many other religions because I studied it at university level. I did not do schooling from DI, but yes, here students learn it at the school level itself. And they themselves find out that the crux of all the religions is same. But let them find out. It's not that we can say. So for that, we teach them, they study this course, comparative study of religion. So this is our plan of action for developing the values. Then also we have special camps. I think I have covered the time. I'll just skip this. And this is the comprehensive and continuous evaluation system. So this I want to focus. So we daily give them an assignment at the end of the lecture. The length of the assignment is not more than half a page. At the max, it can be 3/4 of a page. And it is based on the application of what is taught in the class today. And one day it is subjective and other day it is objective. So alternate we do it. And at the end of the week, it is class assignment. So whatever you have studied throughout the week, you'll be assessed in the class, just 5 marks each. So this is daily plus weekly assessment. Then we have class tests twice a semester and SGDs, that is seminar and group discussions. So they select any topic of their choice from the subject, they present in the class, and their peers ask them the questions. Peers get marks for asking the questions, so they ask the questions, they respond. So soft skills are developed. So we do not need separate soft skills course. So every subject they have to present an SGD. So every student gets to learn how to come in front of the audience and speak. And speak for that particular subject. Maths has its own language. Science has its own language. So you cannot just teach them in the language classes, the communication. And then when they have end semester, they are so much done with evaluation that they have no anxiety. And we have tested this time and again. So they do not have any kind of anxiety. Number one. Number two, we have evaluation of all the components. So it is across the domains, as I said, games and sports, music, literary, so several domains are assessed through these activities. And still we have remedial exams and re-evaluation if they want. And what do we do about teachers? We work in close collaboration with Teacher Education Department, and we have 2 centers in the Teacher Education Department, Center for Artificial Intelligence-Based Education. Again, it is government project, so you don't have to spend the students' money or students' fees on it. And we have one more center, that is Center for Knowledge Acquisition, Retention and Transformation, how to do it. So teachers learn, so this is continuous professional development. They also learn from B.Ed and DLED interns. So there is continuous interaction between pre-service teachers, in-service teachers, and teacher educators. And there is a lot of things to discuss. I have done this thing. Shall I close it? Okay. So there are a lot of points. Anyways, maybe next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sona Ahuja. You have thoroughly dealt with the DI Education Board, achievements, and you're doing wonderfully with it. Thank you. Now we have the next speaker, Ms. Shamim Chaudhary from Cambridge Assessment International Education. Please.
afternoon. I'm actually a bit confused because I'm wondering, do I have to put the presentation on myself? It's okay.
Minimize it. Minimum. Yeah, you can close
It's okay.
You'll have to close it.
I have to close it?
Yeah. Let me just.
Yeah. I'm wondering whether I should overburden you with the amount of information that you have already heard today, or should I be a good teacher and let you breathe? So, what do you want? You want a breather, or you want to be overburdened with information? Yeah?
Let the teacher
I'll be a
decide.
good teacher. I'll listen to you. I'll be a good teacher, I promise you. I don't want to get into introductions. Just to let you know, I represent Cambridge International, which is an exam body. It's an awarding organization based in the UK. I was very pleased to know some of you here probably had taken Cambridge exams many years back when as junior Cambridge and senior Cambridge as well. And we are actually part of the University of Cambridge, so a lot of our work is informed by the research that the university does. So this is all that I'm going to skip, okay? I thought of speaking about 3 things. I will speak of one thing properly and see if we have more time. Give me a second, please. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about a concept which is basically called behavior for learning. Now, a great deal has already been written about the failure of many school systems to prepare students properly for life and for the modern world. And I think there is too much of attention given to preparing students for examinations instead of developing learner habits. I think in the first half we heard somebody talking about how teachers go into classrooms, but they are so preoccupied with all the things that they have not done that they cannot focus on anything more. Now, one dangerous misconception is that teachers have to teach to the test to get the highest grade for students. That is an assumption. And we know that teaching students to be good learners not only prepares them for life, but it also results in higher grades in examinations and high-stake assessments. Now, behavior for learning is an approach to understand and develop children and young people's behavior that focuses on their relationship with 3 things: their relationship with their self, their relationship with others, and with the curriculum. And this promotes readiness for education. I think we have all heard, each of us, and through the day talking about, but not actually speaking it out in this language, that children are not mostly ready to learn. They do not have the mindset or the tools to learn, as a result of which they are not able to make the best of what is even offered currently. Forget about what is going to happen in a couple of years when there are much more reforms in India. Now, behavior for learning as an approach was actually developed by Dr. Simon Ellis and Professor Janet Todd. The conceptual framework sets out 3 relationships, and these 3 relationships represent the emotional, the social, and the cognitive co-curricular factors that influence the development of a learner. The arrows that you see here, they are connecting the three relationships, and this is a reminder that these are not experienced in isolation by the learner. For example, if there is a difficulty in forming friendships, which is like a social factor, it may adversely affect how an individual feels about themselves, which is actually an emotional factor. Now, the term behavior for learning reflects the key principle that the priority of a teacher is to promote learning. And I think that is very often forgotten in classrooms. Therefore, even when selecting a behavior management strategy for a class or for a school, consideration needs to be given to its contribution to the development of learning behavior. The term relationship with the curriculum, now what does it actually refer? It refers to the cognitive or the curricular aspects of learning. It encompasses, but it is not limited to, factors such as the learner's ability to tackle the task, how do they organize themselves, and their learning, and most importantly, their motivation for the task. I think in many cases, it is the lack of motivation in a learner which hampers anything else. Now, an understanding of how the key components of behavior for learning, conceptual framework linked together supports four main functions: reflective practice, assessment, planning, and monitoring and evaluation. Now, we all work with schools. Even we work with schools. We work with schools in around 160 countries. And believe me, we have a range of schools which you'll be surprised to hear. We have schools in big cities, but we also have a school in a small town, a rural town in Birbhum in West Bengal. So we work with a range of schools, and we know how difficult it is to support schools, especially when it comes to issues about things about behavior for learning. So Ellis and Todd suggested 3 levels of use for this, as how schools can promote behavior for learning in their learners or students. The first is the extended mode, which basically you focus on strengthening just maybe one or more of these 3 relationships. The other is the core, where you identify just one relationship and work on it. And then the third way is to do it by day-to-day through general teaching, approach to behavior management, where you protect and enhance all the 3 relationships that are there. Now, what are the learning habits students need to be successful in school, in higher education, in workplace, and in life in general? Now, this question has inspired the development of the Cambridge Learner Attributes. There are 5 attributes that we want students who follow the Cambridge curriculum to imbibe. We understand learners' educational experiences as being holistic, inclusive of their cognitive, social, and emotional development. And this gets reflected in our learner attributes as we aim to support schools to develop learners who are confident, who are responsible for themselves, respectful of others, and engaged intellectually and socially, ready to make a difference. Now, our mission at Cambridge International is to support schools around the world to give them, the students, the best education for life. That's what our motto is, education for life. Not just for classroom, not just for cracking tests or getting a score of 90. Our qualifications and educational programs are designed for this very purpose. However, they must be supported by effective teaching and learning and leadership practices. I'll just take 5 minutes more to talk about what we do in terms of professional development of teachers, and I'll end it there. I hope all of you are still with me. Now, research indicates that effective teacher professional development needs to be integrated into the everyday life of the school and the teacher, and not just exist in silos as trainings. Now, I understand that the NEP 2020 has a section on teachers where it comments that the quality of teacher education and teacher empowerment is not where it should be in India, and that consequently that the quality and motivation of teachers does not reach the desired standards. I'm going to share with you something what we have done when we designed our qualifications, professional development qualifications for our teachers. So we have designed a teaching and learning diploma and a certificate qualification. Now, when we were designing this, there were two essential principles that underpin the design of these qualifications. One was effective teaching, and the other was effective professional development. The qualifications are inclusive and they are relevant to all teaching and learning contexts, starting from primary and secondary general education to vocational education and training, to further adult and higher education. These qualifications develop not only subject knowledge and skills, but most importantly, they develop attitudes, ways of thinking, and behaviors. So we have another program which is on educational leadership. And believe me, all these programs are for in-service people, okay? Now, leadership learning is based on the twin concept of active learning and reflective practice. So candidates who come for these programs, they increase their knowledge of relevant theories and research findings that informs and deepens their reflection. And they encourage leaders to increase their knowledge and understanding of how successful leadership should be in the school system. It helps them develop their leadership skills, self-evaluate their approaches to leadership. I think I heard somebody talking about, students self-evaluating, but are we actually giving teachers or encouraging them to also self-evaluate what their thinking is about how they are teaching? So this kind of reflective practice is typically missing. The certificate and the diplomas that we have are those for who have a leadership role in a school setting, and they help leaders to explore and apply new ideas in their own context and integrate new approaches in their own practice and demonstrate the professional development as reflective practitioners. I'm coming to my last slide. So we call them the professional development qualifications, the Cambridge PDQs, and these are benchmarked to the framework for higher education qualifications in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland to level 4 and level 5 respectively. Now what's interesting is each program involves a spiral of professional learning, each stage being a cycle of experiential learning and reflective practice, which follows from the previous cycle. Now, areas of learning for teachers are revisited systematically within the program. So the design is such that candidates can engage with these in more depth and detail and acquire the related skills and knowledge. There are 3 key processes that this spiral involves. First is observation, second is reflection, and third is learning with and from mentors. If you can see the screen, you will find that the assessment that we do for these programs is actually a portfolio of evidence. So it's not just attending a training program or writing a test, but they have to submit a portfolio of evidence. Now these processes are crucial and they work together, because in that case what happens is teachers receive feedback from their mentors to inform their continuous reflection. So while if you're creating CPDs for teachers, I would suggest that it's important that CPDs are fit for purpose and are designed to help transform the vision that the NAP has spoken about. I'm going to end my session here. I'm around tomorrow, and I'd be happy to have a one-to-one chat if you have queries about anything. Thank you so much for patiently listening.
Thank you, Ms. Shamim Chaudhary. You have thoroughly dealt with the Cambridge assessment and education and showcased effectively what's going across the board in different countries, that 160 countries that you're operating in. Thank you. Now, next speaker, we have Mr. Mahesh Balakrishnanji from International Baccalaureate. He would be speaking on globalization in the modern workplace, the transformational impact of an IB education.
It's been a long day, and I'm sure some of you are feeling cold. Manojji mentioned about the Kerry Packer series. He forgot to talk about the Indian Cricket League. I don't know how many of you remember Subhash Chandra's Indian Cricket League. Yeah, he mentioned the Kerry Packer. So that's good. Good, thank you. I had my back to the wall, so I can be excused. Okay, so we had some good things. She talked about DEI from Dayalbagh, and we have DEI as part of our NEP as well. But for us, DEI means diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. If you are an IB school, you tend to comply with both NEP and NCF SE. Okay, both, because most of the elements like moving away from rote learning, subject choices, you have easing of patterns, all that has been there, subject choices, even talking about skilling, which is very interesting to me. Thank you, both, because one of the S there stands for skilling. Okay, and so I would say I will not talk much about NEP and NCF because it is already there and we have presented in the previous COBSE events in Vijayawada and others. So I'll skip that part of it to a great extent. But globalization in the modern workplace is very important. You mentioned about use of technology. The way we work has changed, and I hope that we give the same flexibility to our educators. I'll give an example. When pollution increased in Delhi, what did schools do? They went online, correct? Many of the schools went online. I hope that when teachers don't want to go to school, they can be at home and be online, students are in class. I hope we give them the same flexibility. The workplace has changed quite a lot. But how many of you would want your own children to go to industry after grade 12? Any show of hands? No. Correct? None of us want to do that. If I talk about gap year, the concept of gap year is very prevalent in the Western world. We somehow frown for gap years, but gap year happens in India. What do students end up doing after 12th? They prepare for JEE, they go for coaching for NEET. In other parts of the world, students travel, learn another culture, music, they apprentice as well. Even in Japan, we have IBCP schools, which after grade 12 from Hitachi or Toshiba, they go and join the shop floor, save some money, go back into higher education after 3-4 years. In countries like Singapore, Israel, South Korea, students have to do mandatory, boys have to do national service, which is military service, which is a gap. In my son's case, that gap became 3 years. After 12th, 3 years before he entered university. I'm also happy to share, as part of our collaboration efforts in India, we are working with DBSE, we are working with Board of School Education Haryana, we are working with the government of Andhra Pradesh, we are working with the Mumbai Corporation, and so on. When we talk about globalization, Globalization doesn't mean going overseas. A lot of these organizations are present in India, or Indian professionals are working with them either in India or on site or short stints. Even education for that matter, if you look at Stanford, a lot of Indians are taking up higher education courses or certification with Stanford, with MIT and others. This is an era of micro credentials. Certification is becoming very important. Skilling is becoming very important. People were using the word vocation. Personally, I love the word vocation. It means a higher calling in life. But the moment you talk about vocational education in India, somehow people, for dignity of labor or whatever, they think it's plumber or it's electrician, carpenter. They're not looking at it from the beauty of the word. So that's how what IB does is, IB calls it IB Careers Program. Education industry has seen a paradigm shift, more so after pandemic, isn't it? People are talking about not only future of jobs, people are talking future of skilling as well. Both are important. You want to be skilled. That's why a lot of skill universities have come up and all. How many of you have heard of ChatGPT? Okay, how many of you are using ChatGPT in some form or the other? Quite a lot, right? It makes it easier. But also there is a threat that ChatGPT and AI can take away jobs. Correct? But we believe students should have choice, voice and agency and ownership. They should be also willing to take up ownership. They should be willing to pursue their passion. In India, till NEP came in, a student of science stream could not study, say, economics at a school level. Of course, people went into BSc or BCom after PCM as well. Many colleges in India allowed that, and they could do that. But now, students should be allowed to pursue their passion. And in our case, with the IBCP, we see that. IB works very closely with OECD, World Bank and others. So the future of jobs says that technology is across industries. We've seen that. There's a restaurant called Thai Express. They use belts to serve food in a restaurant if you go. Okay? AI is not just IT. It can be in healthcare, it can be in automotive, it can be in banking, in many other ways. Many of us do not even know. I was seeing since morning, even now, a lot of you are using phones, right? It has got a lot of AI without us realizing it. We are now always connected with work or pleasure based on our choices. So OECD says that students are more aware of career choices now than earlier. हमारे जनरेशन में either अब CA बनते थे या इंजीनियरिंग करते थे या मेडिसिन करते थे. कुछ लोग लॉ जाते थे. Okay? But people didn't have a choice. They were forced. If you get more than 80, science. 60 to 80, commerce, and then anywhere else. Now it's not like that. People who score very well in exams also want an alternate choice. People want to become stand-up comedian. It's a good choice. You have a chief minister of a state, you have the president of Ukraine. Okay, they've taken those kind of professions. A.R. Rahman is running a conservatory of music. IPL, Kabaddi League, Badminton League. Okay, there's big money. Today, even parents are willing to take risk and offer those choices to students. एक कंपनी है, हमने G20 में देखा था पुणे में, called Dronacharya. What they do? They offer drone certification, courses around drone operation and so on. Who would have thought there would be a vocation called, or a job title called Master Drone Operator? Okay, I am seeing it in Singapore also. Singapore is taking smart boys and girls from 11th and 12th and saying, please come and operate drones for the Singapore Air Force. Cyber security. Okay, can you be hackers? And the Singapore government then offers scholarships, generous scholarships, and pay to them to follow those lines. This is something which happened. We see students, when you go and search what after 10th, okay, people are searching, what do I do after 10th? Parents may not know it, students know it. They are looking at what can I do after 10th? I don't want to do engineering. Or even if I want to do engineering, I don't want to read mathematics. Okay? In countries like Singapore, you can do medicine without, biology as a subject. Penang Medical College, which is a famous destination for many Indians to pursue medicine, has made it mandatory from 2022 that you need to have mathematics. So here we say physics, chemistry, biology as part of NEET is good. So I'll skip this. There are a lot of industries impacted by AI. These are the common ones we see. Now what we are doing is a lot of jobs are being created. So IB in grade 11 and 12 through the IB Careers program is offering these kind of choices. So a student can read the IBDP subjects and will have a 2-year deep dive into, say, AI, into sports management, into filmmaking. Universities like Whistling Woods and University of Mumbai are approaching us, please send your film students to us. They want admissions. Shiv Nadar University, Plaksha University, they say, please send your AI students to us. That's the kind of students they want, who are ready, who have learned it at a school level and coming. This is not just one subject. This is not just one subject. This is a 2-year deep dive with industry internship, master classes, and so on and so forth. And all our courses, all our programs have community center, community service at the core of their learning. This is how the world is changing, the global world. And through the NEP, we are seeing universities in higher education like Deakin and all also coming into India. Okay, they will be challenging our local higher education system as well. Because they are away from rote learning, they inspire critical thinking and more. Today, everybody wants to be a good storyteller. Similarly, one of the things what we think is that business administration, 30 years has become boring. Not at all. A lot of organizations still want people with business administration qualification. Many of the people after MBA, they are doing telecalling or more. People after IIT are joining IIMs for management. Our leaders are proving themselves around the world. So I think these kind of choices is what students are wanting. They want to do their own startup. They want to learn the essentials of running a business while in school as they get funding for their startups. Okay. So as part of our IBCP, students learn career specialization. They undergo practical training between 15 days to 6 months on-site or remote or offline. We have master classes, we have case studies, a Harvard case style approach. We have career pathways, capstone projects, and more. We have a good choice. We have in business management, media, arts, technology, healthcare. And this gets revised every now and then, whatever is going to be part of the future of work. And like I said, IBCP prepares students for challenges of life and higher education. Great boutique of subject choices, what NEP talks about. And of course, doing away with rote learning and internships and industry pathways. There's a lot of benefits for students and parents. Develop skills and competencies for lifelong learning. Provides practical real-world approaches to learning. Encourages international mindedness. Offers an alternative pathway to pursue higher education, apprenticeship, or employment. We are seeing a lot of our students. We have now about 30 schools which have taken up, which have become authorized. We are seeing a demand from about 130 schools in the next 2 years for IBCP. And many of the students themselves are asking us, I want to do a startup or join a company after 12th, save some money, and then go to higher education. We have schools in Bhubaneswar, we have schools in Pune, we have schools in many parts, including Madurai, which are going for IBCP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahesh Balakrishnan ji, for elaborately showcasing the happenings at the International Baccalaureate and the courses being offered. Now we have the next and the last speaker, Shri J.K. Agrawal ji, Deputy Secretary Academics. Okay, sorry, acha, Professor V.K. Goel, this has to be replaced. Okay, Professor V.K. Goel from Chhattisgarh Board, Raipur. Usually implementation of NEP at the Chhattisgarh Board that will be dealing with.
Good evening all. Honorable President of COBSE, Mrs. S.N.U. Sekhasu, Honorable General Secretary Shri M.C. Sharma ji, all officers of various boards, all officers, BOSSE, especially Dr. Kuldeep Agrawal ji, Chairperson of this session, Dr. Ved Prakash Yadav ji, Chairman of हरियाणा बोर्ड. आप लोग सुबह से बहुत थक गए होंगे और ये लग रहा होगा कि कब लास्ट सेशन ख़त्म हो और हम लोग यहाँ से चले. मैं आप लोगों को बहुत ज़्यादा बोर नहीं करूँगा. छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य में कुछ यूनिक योजनाएं चल रही हैं, उसके बारे में मैं आप लोगों से डिस्कस करूँगा, मतलब शेयर करना चाहता हूँ कि कौन कौन सी हमारे यहाँ अच्छी योजनाएं चल रही हैं. और उन योजनाओं में से कुछ योजनाओं का संबंध NEP 2020 से भी है. छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य में SCERT के द्वारा SCF तैयार किया जा रहा है और SCF तैयार होने के बाद NEP के ऊपर जो भी SCF तैयार होगा उसको छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य में लागू किया जाएगा. कहाँ छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य नवंबर 2000 में गठित हुआ था और बोर्ड की स्थापना हुई थी जुलाई 2001 में. देखिए, आज कंप्यूटर का ज़माना है, सभी बोर्ड ऑनलाइन सुविधाएं देते होंगे, लेकिन कुछ ऑनलाइन में हम लोग कुछ ऐसी सुविधाएं भी लागू की हैं जिससे काम कुछ फास्ट हो जाता है. जैसे परीक्षाएं होती हैं तो परीक्षा के दिन परीक्षा केंद्र में जो अब्सेंटीज बच्चे होते हैं और जो नकल प्रकरण होते हैं उनकी एंट्री उसी दिन परीक्षा केंद्र से कर दी जाती है, तो हमारे पास में वो डेटा उसी दिन प्राप्त हो जाते हैं. विलेफन के समय विलेफन केंद्रों से प्रतिदिन हमको जानकारी मिल जाती है कि कितने विलेवर उपस्थित हुए हैं सब्जेक्ट वाइज और कितना विलेफन कंप्लीट हो गया है और कितना बचा हुआ है, ताकि उसको हम कोऑर्डिनेट कर सकते हैं और कोऑर्डिनेट करके उसमें कोई संशोधन करना होता है कि वहीं कहीं पे विलेवर कम है, विलेफन पिछड़ रहा है, तो वहाँ पे हम विलेवर की व्यवस्था करते हैं ताकि हमारा विलेशन समय पर पूर्ण हो जाता है. NEP में चर्चा हुई टीचर ट्रेनिंग की, क्वालिटी एजुकेशन की. उसके लिए छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य में हम लोगों ने एक टीचर गाइड तैयार की है जिसको हम लोग हिंदी में बोलते हैं शिक्षक संदर्शिका. उसमें सब्जेक्ट वाइज हमने संदर्शिका तैयार करवाई है और उसमें सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट से जो कठिन विषय हैं उन कठिन विषयों को सरल रूप से कैसे पढ़ाया जाए शिक्षकों के लिए तैयार करवाई है और उनको ट्रेनिंग दे रहे हैं. सबसे पहले हमने स्टेट में जिला स्तर से कुछ टीचर्स को सेलेक्ट करके बुलाया और उनको ट्रेनिंग दी, फिर जिला स्तर में उन्होंने ब्लॉक स्तर पे दी, फिर ब्लॉक स्तर में हर स्कूल के टीचर्स को बुला करके ट्रेनिंग दी जा रही है। इससे क्या है, टीचर ट्रेंड हो रहे हैं, टीचर की ट्रेनिंग हो रही है, और जब टीचर ट्रेंड होकर के स्टूडेंट्स को पढ़ाएंगे तो निश्चित रूप से क्वालिटी एजुकेशन भी आएगी। हमारे स्टेट में एक योजना है स्वामी आत्मानंद स्कूल। इसका प्रारंभ कैसे हुआ इस पर थोड़ा बताना चाहूँगा। हमारे चेयरमैन हैं डॉक्टर आलोक शुक्ला। ही इज सीनियर IAS ऑफ छत्तीसगढ़। वे स्कूल एजुकेशन के प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी भी हैं। हम लोग कुछ स्कूल, प्राइवेट स्कूल के इंस्पेक्शन के लिए गए तो एक छोटा सा टपरा सा स्कूल था, 1000 स्क्वायर फीट में बना हुआ था। वहाँ पे बच्चों की संख्या ज़्यादा थी। वहाँ टीचर्स से पूछा गया कितनी सैलरी मिलती है, किसी को 3000, किसी को 4000 सैलरी देते थे। और उसी के बगल में हमारा एक बहुत बड़ा स्कूल था गवर्नमेंट का, वहाँ पे बच्चे कम। तो पूछा, ये एनालिसिस किया गया कि ऐसा क्यों है, भाई हमारे यहाँ बच्चे क्यों नहीं आ रहे हैं, और उस स्कूल में बच्चे क्यों आ रहे हैं, तो बिल्कुल छोटा सा है जहाँ पे टीचर की सैलरी कम है। हम लोग टीचर को 50,000 सैलरी दे रहे हैं, उसके बाद टीचर हमारे यहाँ क्यों नहीं आ रहे हैं। तो एनालिसिस किया गया तो ये निकल के सामने आया कि वो इंग्लिश मीडियम में पढ़ा रहे हैं और हमारे स्कूल जो हिंदी मीडियम के हैं। दूसरा, हमारे गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में टीचर्स की कमी रहती है। आपका सेटअप तो दे दिया हमने 50 का, 40 का, 30 का, लेकिन वहाँ पे टीचर है 5, 7, 2। तो इन दोनों को दूर करने के लिए हमने एक योजना निकाली। उसमें कुछ स्कूलों को हमने स्वामी आत्मानंद उत्कृष्ट विद्यालय का नाम दिया, और वहाँ पर हमने उस विद्यालय की बिल्डिंग को भी चमकाया, और वहाँ पर इंग्लिश मीडियम हमने पढ़ाई शुरू की, और स्टाफ पूरा वहाँ पे फुल किया। फुल करने के हमने जो तरीके अपनाए, एक तो डेपुटेशन पे कोई बाहर से आना चाहता है डेपुटेशन से आ जाए, नहीं तो संविदा नियुक्ति से हमने टीचरों को भरना शुरू कर दिया। तो जो भी हमारे स्वामी आत्मानंद स्कूल है वहाँ पूरा ही स्टाफ है, क्लर्क से लेकर के पूरे टीचर है उसमें अपॉइंटेड है, और इंग्लिश मीडियम में स्कूल चल रही है। आज की स्थिति में उन स्कूलों की ये स्थिति है कि प्राइवेट स्कूलों में कई तो प्राइवेट स्कूल बंद हो गए हैं। कम से कम 400-500 प्राइवेट स्कूल बंद हो गए हैं जो टपरा टाइप के थे। और स्वामी आत्मानंद स्कूल में एडमिशन के लिए लाइन लगी रहती है, और उसका फॉर्म ऑनलाइन भरना पड़ता है। ऑनलाइन फॉर्म भरने के बाद में जहाँ पे 100 सीट है वहाँ पे 1500-2000 फॉर्म आते हैं। अब उसमें एडमिशन कैसे देते हैं हम लोग? कोई गरीब बच्चा नहीं देखते, कोई अमीर बच्चा नहीं देखते, कोई कमज़ोर बच्चा नहीं देखते, कोई होशियार बच्चा नहीं देखते। लॉटरी निकालते हैं, जिसकी लॉटरी निकलती है उसको एडमिशन देते हैं। तो ये इसमें कोई कंट्रोवर्सी भी नहीं होती, और किसी तरह से कोई प्रेशर भी नहीं आता कि हमको आप, कभी मिनिस्टर से प्रेशर आते हैं, कभी इधर से प्रेशर आते हैं, तो प्रेशर भी नहीं रहता। जिसकी लॉटरी निकलेगी उसका एडमिशन हो जाएगा। तो इस तरह से छत्तीसगढ़ में अभी करीब 200 से अधिक स्कूल चल रहे हैं, और हर साल इसकी डिमांड बढ़ रही है। और आने वाले समय में ये प्लानिंग है कि हर वर्ष 150-200 स्कूलों को आत्मानंद बनाया जाएगा। इसके साथ साथ हमने आत्मानंद अभी इसी वर्ष से, ये जो स्कूल बता रहा हूँ वो 2 साल पहले शुरू किया था, इसी वर्ष हमने आत्मानंद कोचिंग योजना शुरू की है। इसमें क्या होता है कि जो दूर के बच्चे हैं, गरीब बच्चे हैं, दूरस्थ स्कूलों में पढ़ते हैं, वो बेचारे कोचिंग नहीं ले पाते, तो उसके लिए ऑनलाइन कोचिंग प्रारंभ की गई है फ्री ऑफ कास्ट पे। और स्कूलों से ही जो बच्चे पढ़ने वाले हैं उन बच्चों को सिलेक्ट करके ऑनलाइन कोचिंग दिलवाई जा रही है, और एलन करियर इंस्टीट्यूट के कोलैबोरेशन से इस योजना को शुरू किया गया है। और एलन कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट फ्री ऑफ कास्ट पर वो सेवाएं हमको दे रही है। तो इससे क्या है कि जो बच्चे कोचिंग नहीं ले पाते थे नीट की और कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स की, उसकी कोचिंग हम ऑनलाइन उनको दिलवा रहे हैं। ये हमारे यहाँ एक बहुत यूनिक योजना है। एनईपी में वोकेशनल कोर्सेज की बहुत बातें होती हैं, हमारे यहाँ एक्चुअल में एक ये योजना ऐसी है, इसमें ड्यूल सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता है। जो छात्र कक्षा 11वीं और 12वीं में पढ़ रहा है वो 11वीं 12वीं में एडमिशन के साथ साथ ITI में भी एडमिशन लेता है। वो ITI के 1 वर्ष के पाठ्यक्रम को, ट्रेड को 2 वर्ष में बांट दिया जाता है। जब बच्चा 11वीं में आता है तो आधा पाठ्यक्रम 11वीं में पढ़ता है और आधा पाठ्यक्रम ITI का वो 12वीं में जब बच्चा जाता है तब पढ़ता है। 12वीं के बाद जब बच्चा हमारे बोर्ड से पास हो जाता है तो उसको हम 12वीं का सर्टिफिकेट देते हैं। वो ITI से पास हो जाता है तो उसको SCVT का सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता है। दोनों में पास हो जाता है तो उसको दोनों सर्टिफिकेट दिए जाते हैं। ये योजना भी कैसे शुरू हुई ये बताता हूं आपको मैं। प्लम्बर, आपके घर में नल बह रहा है, पानी बह रहा है, आप प्लम्बर को फ़ोन कर रहे हैं, नहीं आ रहा, बड़ी परेशानी प्लम्बर की। आपके यहाँ बिजली खराब हो गई, आप फ़ोन कर रहे हैं, लाइनमैन नहीं आ रहा है, कोई बिजली ठीक करने नहीं आ रहा है। इतनी कमी है प्लम्बर्स की, लाइनमैन्स की, छोटे छोटे कामों के लिए, और इसके लिए स्किल चाहिए। और स्किल चाहिए तो इसके लिए हमने फिर ये योजना शुरू की कि इफ ITI में जो ट्रेड्स हैं इसी तरह के सब ट्रेड्स को हमने चालू किया, ताकि वो जो छात्र वहाँ पढ़ रहा है अगर 12वीं के बाद वो अपना खुद का रोज़गार करना चाहता है तो रोज़गार कर सकता है। 12वीं के बाद वो अगर हायर एजुकेशन में जाना चाहता है तो 12वीं की सर्टिफिकेट के आधार पे हायर एजुकेशन प्राप्त कर सकता है। और अगर वो किसी फैक्ट्री में, क्योंकि उसको स्किल है, तो किसी फैक्ट्री में अगर जॉब चाहिए तो वो जॉब भी कर सकता है। तो उसके 3 ऑप्शन खुले रहते हैं। ये योजनाएं तो मेरे ख्याल से सभी स्टेट में चल रही होंगी। नवीन व्यावसायिक पाठ्यक्रम, इसमें क्या है कि 10वीं में एक विषय को छोड़ करके उसके स्थान पे एक वोकेशनल कोर्स, एक वोकेशनल सब्जेक्ट को पढ़ता है बच्चा। और इसी प्रकार से 12वीं में भी एक विषय को छोड़ करके वोकेशनल कोर्स को पढ़ता है। ये तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम है और सभी स्टेट में चल रही होगी। एक हमारे यहाँ जो मेरिट वाले बच्चे होते हैं उनके लिए योजना चल रही है, स्वामी आत्मानंद मेधावी छात्र प्रोत्साहन योजना। इसमें जो मेरिट में बच्चे आते हैं उन सभी बच्चों को 1,50,000 रुपये राशि उनके खाते में ऑनलाइन ट्रांसफ़र कर दी जाती है, अर्थात प्रोत्साहन राशि उनको दी जाती है 1,50,000 रुपये। और मेरिट में कौन कौन से बच्चों को हम शामिल करते हैं? 10वीं में टॉप 10, 12वीं में टॉप 10, 12वीं में अपनी अपनी फैकल्टी में टॉप सभी स्टूडेंट को शामिल करते हैं। इसके अलावा हमारा जो राज्य है वो बहुत पिछड़ा राज्य है, वहाँ पे जनजातियाँ बहुत ज़्यादा हैं। कुछ जनजातियाँ विलुप्त हो रही हैं, उसको वहाँ पे विशेष पिछड़ी जनजाति के रूप में जाना जाता है, जैसे कमार, बैगा, पहाड़ी कोबरा, इस तरह की 5 जातियाँ हैं। तो वो 5 जातियों के बच्चे अपनी जाति में जो प्रथम स्थान प्राप्त करते हैं, कक्षा 10वीं में हो या कक्षा 12वीं में, उनको भी हम मेरिट सूची में शामिल करते हैं और सभी को प्रशस्ति पत्र देते हैं और 1,50,000 रुपये उनको पुरस्कार के रूप में देते हैं, ताकि बच्चा उस पैसे से आगे की अपनी पढ़ाई कर सके। पहले हम लोग उनको 1,00,000 रुपये और लैपटॉप देते थे। स्कीम ऐसी है कि जब कोई भी कार्यक्रम इस तरीके रहता है तो कार्यक्रम करते हैं, कार्यक्रम करने के लिए CM से टाइम ले रहे हैं, गवर्नमेंट से टाइम ले रहे हैं, टाइम लग गया, टाइम नहीं मिल पाया, तो बच्चों को पैसा और लैपटॉप बाद में मिलता था। जो बच्चा हायर एजुकेशन में पढ़ने चला गया उसको अभी लैपटॉप चाहिए है, वो खरीद लेता था लैपटॉप, बाद में हम उसको लैपटॉप देते थे तो उसका यूज नहीं होता था, उसको हम 50,000 में खरीद के देते तो 25,000 30,000 बाहर बेचता था। जब इसको देखा ऐसा होता तो हमने उसको लैपटॉप की भी राशि देना शुरू कर दी, यानी कि 1,50,000 रुपये उसको नकद दे देते हैं, वो उसका जो भी यूज़ करे। तो इससे क्या है कि बच्चे प्रोत्साहित भी होते हैं। इसके बाद जो बच्चे मेरिट सूची में आते हैं उन सभी बच्चों को हम लोग हेलीकॉप्टर में जाय राइडिंग करवाते हैं। और ये योजना इतनी सफल हुई है कि हर बच्चा जाय राइडिंग करने के लिए बहुत मेहनत करता है और मेरिट में आने की पूरी कोशिश करता है। पूरी चला दो। थैंक्स कोब्से, थैंक्स बोस्से, जो आप लोगों ने मुझे बोलने का मौका दिया. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू प्रोफेसर वीके गोयल जी. इट वाज अ वंडरफुल प्रेजेंटेशन और मैं समझते हैं कि बहुत कुछ इंस्पिरेशन आपके बोर्ड से बाकी बोर्ड भी ले पाएंगे. और मैं समझता हूँ कि लास्ट सेशन हो गया अपना. देन आईड रिक्वेस्ट द होस्ट टू वाइंड अप दिस सेशन आई सपोज. थैंक यू. Yeah, we can all get up and finish with national anthem. The nice suggestion by Kuldeep ji. Yeah. You're going to play or it's there? I think we can
sing together.
Yeah, let's sing together. National anthem, begin.
Jana gana mana adhinayak jaya he Bharat bhagya vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravid Utkal Banga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchchal Jaladhi Taranga तब शुभ नामी जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाए तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे भारत माता की जय मातरम.
Thank you so much. I take this opportunity to thank all the dignitaries for an impactful session today.